Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to the Canary Cry News Talk live stream pre-stream. Congratulations for making it in a little bit early. We're going to get the show started in just about a minute, but of course I want to give a big old congratulations to Failivrin over there on DLIVE. That's right, DLIVE coming in hot, folks. Remember, you should follow us over at dlive.tv/Canary Cry Radio if you want any chance of returning to the show once things go south again on the YouTubes. Again, we've learned over the past couple of weeks you cannot count on the YouTube channels, either of them. So if you're a YouTube viewer and if you just don't care if you never see the show again, don't listen to me. But if you want to see the show, make sure to follow us on other platforms like dlive.tv/Canary Cry Radio, twitch.tv/Canary Cry Radio. We're all over the place, folks, so make sure you follow us somewhere other than YouTube, because you never know when we'll disappear forever. And of course, very important that you follow us over on your favorite podcast player. That's right, the podcast is posted the same day as the live stream, so if you miss a show or we disappear from live streaming, you can listen to the podcast version. Okay, folks, make sure to stay hydrated and let's go.
The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Today is April 21st, 2021. This is episode 327. And today, guilty scapegoat justice. And I am your best buddy, Basil.
And this is Gonz, your favorite Asian provocateur for Christ. Welcome to the podcast where we praise Jesus while reporting the egregious with a well-rounded, biblically grounded take on world events.
Yes.
And what world event is going on today?
Nothing has happened over the past 2 days except one thing, and that was the ending of the trial of Derek Chauvin, which we'll be talking about. But yeah, other than that, literally time stood still and nothing mattered.
For people viewing, Basil's visuals, we were having issues with the camera.
Yeah,
so
very strange.
We have a stand-in for the visual part of it. That's transparent John Teeter Basil.
Yes. Yeah, we don't know what it is. There's some very strange technical issue. Went through all the steps and should be working until the very last second. It decides to not work, so that's okay. You just get to see some stationary googly eyes today. Other than that, what about you, Gonz? Anything happened to you besides justice?
Slam my pinky toe into a side of a couch pretty hard. Pretty sure I didn't lose the toenail, but definitely cracked it. It was pretty painful.
Yeah. That's really a day ruiner.
It's about as bad as it. And I keep kind of thinking I did more to it because it hurts to walk a little bit. It's painful, but we'll get through it. Who needs a pinky toe?
Let's do it. You don't need a pinky toe to podcast, Gonz.
I know. Well, you don't know what kind of mouse setup I got here with all the clickety clicks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have that the old pinky toe mouse.
Yeah,
that five-fingered foot mouse. You use it mainly for your Player Underground Battle Royale games.
Yeah,
where you pwn noobs and scream at 12-year-olds over the internet.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I was talking to my father over the weekend, and he was telling us about what it was like to buy the first computer. And he came home with the computer, and we were like, "Oh, cool!" But we couldn't do anything with, like, we were having trouble starting it up, and I had learned about computers at school, public school back in the day with Oregon Trail and all that, and I was like, we need a mouse, Dad. My dad was like, oh, what's a mouse? And of course,
yeah. I mean, the mice they weren't sort of the original hardware. It was kind of a new and exciting piece of hardware.
Yeah. And we had to go get a mouse, and we were on our way because we had to type things and stuff.
Fun.
different
Oregon
world.
Trail. They made a card game out of Oregon Trail. I own it. Yeah, I have not played it though. You just see these things that activate your nostalgic brainwashing, and you must purchase them. But I have not played it yet. I'll keep you posted on that.
Yeah, I used to hoard cattle.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hoard cattle. Is that a thing you can do on that game? Or is that just you were a farmer once?
No, I was just very good at getting all of my my resources and making sure that my family doesn't starve.
Yeah, dysentery, man. It'll get you.
Yeah. Okay, so real quick, let's tell people, especially on YouTube, while it lasts.
Like, subscribe, bell button, all. Like, subscribe, bell button, all.
That's right, folks. Go ahead, hit that like button early. Make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications. It's just the best we can do at this point, and no guarantee that we'll be here on YouTube next week, but enjoy it while it lasts, and then also follow us other places.
Yeah, especially after today, we might get slapped for cyberbullying because
no way, Jose.
We'll talk about.
We don't cyberbully anybody.
We don't, but I'm saying they'll accuse us falsely.
No,
which tends to happen.
I'm gonna stay positive.
Okay.
I think they realize that we're, just a bastion of truth. Might be uncomfortable, might be too true at times, but you can't censor the truth, folks. And speaking of which, let's talk about Flippy.
Flippy update.
Do you want fries with that?
Okay, folks, time for the Flippy update. For those who are new to the show, I'll just let you know that Flippy is the colloquial name for the disembodied robot arms that are taking our jobs, enslaving our children, and flirting with our spouses. We use talking about Flippy to explore all the new, fun, and exciting ways that robots are taking over the world and how there's nothing we can do about it. Today, Gons, we're keeping it simple. This is a article from prnewswire.com. And the headline, follow me now, Amber Robotics, Internet of Things bionic robot company, announces launch of the Amber B1 on Kickstarter, the world debut of 7-axis adaptive and modular robot. Dun, dun, dun. That's right. It's got to be done on Kickstarter. Apparently no angel investors were interested in a 7-axis adaptive and modular robot. But it reads like this. Today, robotics experts, Amber, announced the Kickstarter launch of the Amber B1, a new generation of budget-friendly 7-axis colbotative. Is that correct?
Colbotative?
Colbotative? Is that supposed to be like collaborative, but bot?
Yeah.
Yep, I think that's what it is.
That's what it is. Yeah.
That's a bad word, bad name. Somebody should get fired for that.
Oh, there's more difficult words coming up, by the way. Go ahead.
Colbotative and operative robot arm made proprioception. ARM made proprioception and Ethernet real-time control technology into one. The industrial-grade performance of proprioception technology comes from the self-developed BLDC, a motor with high torque density, which also has 4 times rated torque higher than any traditional one in the same size. B1 is the world first robotics commercial product that supports Ethernet, UDP, real-time technology, less than 4 milliseconds delay. Wow.
Do you know what
fast.
do you know what the description of proprioception is?
The definition?
Well, yeah, it's a definition, but also kind of a description. Also referred to as kinesthesia, is a sense of self-movement and body position. It is sometimes described as the sixth sense. It's dead people. They see dead people.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew kinesthesia. That's weird. I'd never heard that other term for it. But yes, this goes back to the robot having a sense of self and knowing where it is, what position itself is, versus, I don't know, other robots who don't know that. This innovative new design delivers power, precision, and human-like movements across 7 axes to automate production, simplify complex tasks, streamline operations, and boost productivity. This budget and user-friendly robot arm is available on Kickstarter now. Yeah, there you go. I'm trying to pull up the Kickstarter. It's not working for me. Do you have the Kickstarter open?
I don't. I can try.
Oh, okay. There we go. Loading. Still loading. Not pulling up for me. Weird. Oh, yeah. There it is.
There it is.
So, currently,
their pledge goal is $10,000, and they're practically at $200,000.
Yeah, which I would say a $10,000 goal seems a little low. For a robotics company, but $200,000 also seems a little low considering other robotics companies get like $1 billion in seed funding. So not a whole lot of confidence. Now you can see this picture of Amber, the 7-axis adaptive and modular robot, land supported.
Like that.
It's weird that they are so proud of this robot, and it's the fact you can plug a wire into it.
You can connect it to the internet.
The Ethernet. Yeah, which makes a lot of sense why nobody really cares about this robot. I mean, the whole point, if the robot doesn't have 5G and can seamlessly connect to the ambiosphere of the 5G network, I don't even know what the point is. 7-axis control on this bot is pretty impressive, though. That is more elbows than any other robot that I know. This sucker's got a lot of elbows.
There's a little comparison chart of the price point of the Amber B1. It's under $2,000. The other robots with less, joints is the UR3E at $37,000 and the XARM 7 at $12,000. So well, see, that's the thing. It's you take away the wireless capabilities, the price goes down a lot. So there you go, folks. 7 elbows for only $2,000. There's not a better deal on the market, I'll tell you that much. But this is like a consumer access robotic arm. For people trying to get into it. They've got all sorts of fun gifs here of the robot mixing drinks. One of them's got one of those massage guns attached to it, and you know what? I guess if you're a single person who needs to reach those hard-to-reach massage areas on your back, get yourself a companion, a loving companion robot arm to help get those knots out at the end of a hard work day. I like the shake. I like the robot arm shaking the drink inside a little
shaking
shaker.
the cocktail mixer.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, the massage one's pretty interesting too. It's kind of weird. I gotta admit, it's very strange.
It is a little weird.
Creeping up on the lady.
It's one of these consumer available robotic arms, and again, this is the most elbows you'll get for a consumer product. One of these videos is some sort of over-sexualized Asian video producer. What are those called? Vlogger, Twitch streamer, who has put a camera on the robot arm so she can have moving camera movements in her Twitch streams, which I guess would take the production level to the next, level. But there you go. That's all I got, Gons.
They're going to have to use a stabilizer.
I'm not sure exactly how this will take over the world, except for it's easier to get into everybody's homes.
Yeah, the one with the GoPro, for 7 axis points, you'd expect a little bit of a smoother recording from the video cam. They're going to have to stabilize the footage if they want to
Yeah,
get the smoothness.
I think that these robotic arm, the camera mounts specifically, I think they're going to start popping up more on Twitch streamers or content producers. I think $2,000 is within the range of someone who's getting really serious about making, a Twitch stream their whole career. Now, these things can get up to close to $8,000 for the super hyped up version. Get a couple of them, a pair of arms. But other than that,
yeah, well, the 7 access points. Remember, you got the 7 heads in Revelation 13 from the beast. Imagine if that's what it was talking about. Oh, no, you get up to heaven. Yeah, I was talking about the 7 heads with the 10 horns from the beast out of the sea. Revelation 13, yeah, I was talking about the 7 access points of a Flippy robot.
Yeah, 7 elbows. Yeah. It's a translation issue. It's a hard language. Yeah,
well, there you go. It's, got to keep an eye on these. I mean, we're on this early, but you never know. You're right. If a popular Twitch streamer was like, hey, look at this new thing I got. It's mixing drinks for him. It's doing camera work. I could see somebody with 8 or 9 of these things all around doing things for the streamer. And you got a whole new production thing, and then people get all amped about it. And now
if you're gaming, if you're gaming and you don't want to let go of your controller to take a sip of water or something, you got it like a boxing coach squirting the water bottle into your mouth. You got another one wiping the sweat off your forehead. It's the real deal, man.
Yeah, and the camera work too. As you raise your volume, as you yell more, the camera does closer, like a close up of your face. It's kind of
some
like
real
audio.
Dramatic angles.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
It's gonna change the world, man. Flippy's here.
It is here. Not getting my dollar or cent though. Are you gonna pay for this thing or no?
Not anytime soon. Okay. No, I have more important things to spend $2,000 on.
Okay, all right. Well, let's get into it. We've ignored it enough. It's time for the race wars.
The race wars.
Race wars. Race war.
I've warned you and warned you and warned you.
And of course, the verdict came in from the Derek Chauvin case. And I wanted to start off with a little video clip from, I think his name is Ami Horowitz. He's got on his Twitter thing, he calls himself a filmmaker, a gonzo journalist, and lover. He's a lover.
Oh, okay.
And the header picture is him on Tucker Carlson, not as a guest. It looks like he's an anchor. I don't know enough about, Fox and all that. So maybe he replaced him, or he's, I don't know. People I don't watch the news on TV. So.
I don't think Tucker's been replaced. I think he's still there. He's doing more online stuff for them now, though.
Right. Didn't he go get his own little cave, or not a cave, but like a cabin house or something? And,
I don't really follow the guy so much. I know that he has been doing longer form stuff on Fox's app, their online app.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, this guy went around. He did his gonzo journalism, which is basically boots on the ground, just asking people what they feel about certain things. And he shared a clip from what he found, and here are some of the responses from people right there in the streets of Minnesota.
You can burn the whole city down. What does it matter?
So I say burn the city down, so they can see that we're here. Continue the movement.
By burning all the city down, we'll teach them a lesson?
I think, honestly, I'm all for burning it down. There shouldn't even be a trial. He should be convicted just as is.
If he got off, would you support street justice on him?
Yes.
Y'all should have fed him to the wolves a long time ago.
How many unarmed black people were killed by cops last year? You have any idea?
100 plus? In just Minnesota?
No, around the country.
Oh, thousands.
Unarmed black people.
Thousands.
Would you call what's happening a genocide?
Yeah, I think that's one word for it.
Genocide?
Yes, most definitely.
A genocide?
Yeah.
I don't want to say we need to go start killing all white folks, but it's like...
But?
Maybe they need to feel the pain and the hurt.
There you go. The music bed is a little hot in the mix there, Ami.
Yeah, the mix was a little off, but
off. But the sentiment, I don't know. You can hear the comments. Hopefully, they were talking about burning the city down, especially if Chauvin doesn't get convicted. This is before, obviously. and talking about, and you had mentioned, Basil, we were kind of talking before the show started, and the saying goes, what is it? Over-socialized, undereducated. What was it?
Over-socialized, underinformed.
Underinformed. Okay. Yeah, and it's too bad because there's a part in here where they ask the young lady here how many black people were killed by police last year, and it shows the statistic 2020, 18 unarmed black people were killed by the police last year. Right. And she's, thousands of black people were killed. It's just really sad. It's like, do we not care about facts, or do we just care about the propaganda, or
and that's the thing, is they don't. But it's not in like a, I don't know. It's not in a purposeful way.
No, it's not. That's what's sad.
It's the brainwashing, and they're just sort of led to believe. Nobody's even telling them the numbers.
Yeah.
When you hear of something happening, and of course there was another black person who got shot yesterday on sentencing day, which we'll talk about a little bit. But it's it's just the way that it's presented, whether it be through a mainstream outlet like CNN or something similar, or just the sort of word of mouth from person to person that does not include the facts of certain things. But that's all sort of beside the point. The point being, there's a high. Of course, this is a man on the street type of thing, highly edited, just includes the ones that make the point, makes the point the person is trying to make. But yeah, they were ready, man. And I think everybody knew it. I think the whole country, especially Minnesota, was sort of holding their breath to see what was going to happen.
Especially the jurors. You don't think the jurors knew that if they went the other way with this thing that their neighborhood might burn down?
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, that's why they're done so quickly. It only took them 10 hours to come to a decision, which is relatively quick compared to other cases that are this high profile. I mean, sometimes they go days or weeks to make a decision.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was obviously very clear whether or not they were effectively sequestered, which I've seen some people question, but it doesn't matter. You don't need to be sequestered to know that if he's not found guilty on everything, the streets will be lit on fire.
Right. They asked these same people if they thought what was happening to the black community was genocide, and all of them said yes, at least the ones edited in. This one here that I'm showing on screen is wearing a shirt that very occultic looking. It got like an upside down triangle. What looks like a moth with like one giant eye in the middle. It's
a cicada or something.
Maybe
or
it's a cicada, yeah. Which a cicada would make more sense, and then like a crescent moon above it, and so. Again, it's just it's like you said, it's a sad situation, I think, but it is an old tactic, an old propaganda piece, and I'll kind of get into that afterwards. I found an interesting document.
So did he say, was this an official Fox News thing, or is this just a YouTuber?
I think, well, he is an official Fox News guy, or not Fox, or maybe it is Fox. Or I don't know if he's still there or what, but yeah, I think this is just his video that he made. So I don't know if it aired on Fox. I mean, it might have, but I just found.
I mean, they don't usually do this sort of thing. No, I mean, this isn't necessarily a mainstream broadcast piece put together, but maybe it's on the guy's YouTube channel or something.
I think he did this for his own thing. It was on his Twitter feed, so he has a big following. So it's not like it was just a random thing that didn't get around.
Sure.
And then, of course, we get to the actual verdict itself, and I have the abcnews.go.com here. I'm going to play just the first 30 seconds of this video, and let me know what your response is, Basil.
We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 1, unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony, find the defendant guilty.
Public reacts to Chauvin Verdict.
The like I said, to see him handcuffed and walk out of that courthouse like my brother was handcuffed, that told me he has no more power. He's not in control anymore, but my brother is in control.
Today.
There you go. We'll get to Kamala in a minute here.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you think? What do you think about the reaction there and the way they showed?
I mean, I don't think it comes as any surprise. Again, whether or not you consider sort of the subtle details of everything, the Chauvin case was the flagship focal point of everything that happened last year.
Yeah.
Not the pandemic, but the riots, the marches, the protests, the takeover of federal buildings, the Chaz autonomous zone, everything was centered around this one guy. So yeah, I don't think there was any chance that he was gonna not be found guilty on at least a couple or even one of the charges. But yeah, I'm not surprised at all, especially considering the fact that definitely Minneapolis would have burned down. And even such, it still felt like maybe not on like these mainstream pieces you're showing, but looking around on Twitter, it seemed like there was even some disappointment that he was found guilty on everything, because there wasn't a clean reason to riot and burn down the city. Because, a lot of the reactions being, oh, he was found guilty on all 3 charges, but none of them were murder. This is a murder case. He should have been charged with murder, when, of course, he was, his charges included
unintentional second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. So you got him on all 3.
Yeah, which I don't think that's necessarily unfair. Those sound like, second degree murder does not require the prosecution. I just have some stuff pulled up here. Not require the prosecution to prove that Chauvin had intent to kill Floyd, but that he was just being, so he doesn't need intent for second degree murder.
Right.
So that was going to stick. Third degree murder under Minnesota state law, caused the death of another person by perpetuating an act that was eminently dangerous, which, standing on somebody's neck for 9 minutes could be considered eminently dangerous. So not really surprising, but there is sort of the uprising and calls from a lot of the leadership, whether of certain radical figures on the left, political figures or activist figures, that, okay, he got guilty. It doesn't mean this is over.
Right. My reaction to this ABC News little montage intro here for this video, this is exactly the kind of response you get in sports. You watch sports and you have like a cam on the people watching games and stuff like that. That's what it felt like to me. And, part of the propaganda machinery here, separating from the case itself, is this crazy level of not just mind control, but just getting people to really look at a case, a situation, and be very, very emotionally invested. And that part of it to me stood out, because in the same way people emotionally invest in sports, and whether their team wins or loses, there's a reaction.
Yeah.
The reaction is exactly the same. I mean, they're like screaming, yelling, crying. That's what it reminded me of. And so it's almost like it's tapping into the same base type of
well, it's a year of buildup,
right?
It's a year of buildup. Very important that this release was was publicized, and it was already kind of weird that it was being televised. I mean, you don't see a whole lot of big cases like this televised anymore, because it's caused some problems in the past. But this was it needed to happen. There was no case in which this wasn't going to happen, given the events of the past year.
Yeah, and I've obviously, you and I have both looked at the video, and there's all kinds of arguments from the side that tries to say that, well, obviously the majority of the people around the country, regardless of political affiliation or whatever side you lean on, tended to say like, yeah, it doesn't look right, it doesn't look good.
Well, I think the verdict reflects what happened. I mean, it was, he did all of the things he was convicted of. And notice how they didn't end up bringing in the first-degree murder.
Yeah,
there was talk. Yeah, there was talk at the beginning of charges being brought against him of first-degree murder, which is, purposefully coming out, setting out to murder him and accomplishing that goal. And the problem with bringing a first-degree murder charge is he probably would not have been found guilty of a first-degree murder. Yeah, which is why they dropped that charge and get him on everything else.
Now, the other question is, was this justice? Was this justice? Now, before we get into that real quick, they did show Chauvin get, the handcuffs on him, be the perk walk. I think that's the moment I thought, they're probably not going to riot. Or if they do, they're not going to publicize any of it because, they kind of got what they wanted. The BLM protests, at least your general, I'm sure like the people that are like really planning and provocateurs, we're kind of disappointed. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh man, we ramped up for this thing. We like bought a whole bunch of stuff for this, and we don't get to really play it, carry it out. Which
it would have been some very high octane fuel for some more moves from the activist establishment.
Right, but your general sort of people that just go with the flow, I think they were satisfied with the perk walk and the arrest and stuff. Now I am wondering. When you look at this clip here, Chauvin's got something written on his hand. Does he have a hand tattoo?
Oh, I don't know.
I just thought it was weird.
You see something written on his hand, the palm of his hand?
Yeah, it looks like either that or because it has his hands cuffed.
Yeah, you usually don't get tattoos on the palm of your hand. Maybe he had
some notes, but why? Why would he have any notes? For what?
I don't know. Maybe it's a phone number that he can remember when he needs to make a phone call in jail.
Maybe. So something I noticed.
There's any better shots of that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to decipher.
Is it really something written, or is that a shadow? No, yeah, it looks
That's
like
not
something's
a shadow.
written.
That looks like something is written on his hand.
Interesting.
He's trying to cheat.
He's got the answers.
He had all the answers. So yeah, I mean, even I have a former police officer neighbor who I talk to regularly, and even he was like, there are certain things that he overstepped certain things that, he didn't have to do some of the things that he did. And so, and this guy is not like a super liberal or anything like that. He's a former police officer.
The point. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you talking about Chauvin?
No. I'm talking about the guy, my neighbor, who basically agreed with the verdict and said like, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much in line with it because as a police officer, there's a certain point when the dude stops moving and he's on the ground, he's cuffed. There's no reason to keep your knee on his neck, kind of thing. So that was kind of his take of the whole deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of it's even on a common sense thing. He didn't need to do what he did. But the point is that it's not even at this point really. And I think, I even think the people in those videos rejoicing at Chauvin's guilty what is the word I'm looking for? Verdict. Thank you. Jeez. Guilty verdict. I mean, I don't think I'm being that provocative by saying that he was a symbol and the symbol needed to be completed with a guilty verdict. I mean, it's much more than just a bad man being punished for a bad thing he did. I mean, this turned into really not just a ritual in sort of an esoteric sense, but really a focal point of huge worldwide attention and actions taken specifically in response to what this guy did, and to not have all the guilty verdicts come through It almost feels like an incomplete spell,
right,
for it to not go all the way through.
To that effect, I know people pointed this out, and I kind of, it's one of those interesting coincidences. The name chauvinism, people were pointing this out last year, which basically means exaggerated or aggressive patriotism, excessive or prejudiced loyalty, or support for one's own cause, group, or gender. It's weird. It's weird that his name is Chauvin,
Yeah.
It's just one of those things that just makes the whole thing a little bit suspicious. But I also found and I mentioned this to you before, Basil, there's a document here, and again, it's not super surprising, and maybe other people have talked about this, but there's a book titled Color, Communism, and Common Sense by Manning Johnson. It was published in 1958, and I'm going to read, he uses the word Negro here, which is kind of how they referred to themselves even back then, the black community. And there's a chapter here titled Red Plot to Use Negroes. And it says here, Black rebellion was what Moscow wanted. Bloody racial conflict would split America. During the confusion, demoralization, and panic would set in. And then the only fear of the... Oh, no, hold on. Let me skipped here. This plot to use the Negroes as a spearhead or as expendables was concocted by Stalin in 1928, nearly 10 years after the formation of the World Organization of Communism. And then it talks about some people that were complicit in that agenda in America, really pushing this communism here. And it mentions some names here. They were the ones who got in on the ground floor of the conspiracy. They're the ones that history may well record as the political Uncle Toms who plotted with a diabolical alien power the moral decay, physical slavery, and spiritual death of their own race. And it talks about chauvinism, white chauvinism, and how it was the hurdle for black Americans. And it basically pushed the black community to look at guys like Stalin as the father or savior, the white savior of blacks in America. Right. And there's even a chapter here titled Destroying the Opposition. I think there's another one here. Maybe that was it. Yeah, Destroying the Opposition. And it says there were also Negro intellectuals, artists, professionals, politicians, etc., seeking a ladder to success. They are used according to the strategic needs of the Communist Party. In preparation for their treacherous role, the party passes along the word covertly or openly to give them preferred treatment. Forces, money, publicity, etc. are used in the buildup to change comparative Negro unknowns into national and international race leaders. And I mean, I was just, it's obvious, but it's also stunning that however many years, what is this, 70, 80 years ago, there's a book that kind of just outlines exactly what's happening to us today. And, like you said, it's the underinformed thing. It's troubling because it's like, hey, this has happened before. This is pretty obvious, but nobody talks about it in this regard. I mean, I hear a lot of conservative right-wing people say oh, it's a communist takeover, but how exactly? And this outline, this guy, this African-American guy, Manning Johnson, 1958, he labored for the cause of communism. And he was there. He was a comrade. He says he was a dedicated comrade. And then he noticed how the black community was being used by Russia, interestingly, to divide and conquer, so to speak, in the U.S. And you read it from 1958, you see what's happening today, and it's pretty startling that it's pretty much the exact same game plan.
Yeah, and that's interesting considering Nancy Pelosi's statement.
Right. All these guys, all these people.
I was looking through our notes here. I don't know if you have Nancy's statement here, but just to tie in, considering what you just said from Yahoo News here, headline, Pelosi thanks George Floyd for sacrificing your life for justice.
There you go.
After After the verdict in the trial former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin was announced, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi expressed her gratitude for justice by thanking George Floyd for sacrificing his life. Quote, "Thank you, George Floyd, for sacrificing your life for justice," Pelosi said Tuesday at a press conference on Capitol Hill with members of the Congressional Black Caucus, "for being there to call out to your mom." Pelosi, again, she's thanking him for being there to call out to your mom. Pelosi continued, "How heartbreaking was that? Call out for your mom. I can't breathe. But because you and because of thousands, millions of people around the world who came out for justice, your name will be synonymous with justice." Kind of a weird comment to make. I mean, I don't
spiritualizing
know.
This guy. I mean, talk about martyrdom.
I don't know if George Floyd, if he could make a comment on it. I'm not sure if he would say he sacrificed his life for justice.
Well, there's a disagreement on that front about justice when it comes to the leadership in politics and media. I have a few clips here of the different people talking about the results here. This first one is from the prosecution team. It's a 25-second clip here talking about, or this is just like the post-verdict, what is it called? What's the press conference thing? Conference. So here's what he said. Oop.
That long, hard, painstaking work has culminated today. I would not call today's verdict justice, however, because justice implies true restoration. But it is accountability, which is the first step towards justice. And now the cause of justice is in your hands. And when I say your hands, I mean the hands of the people of the United States.
There you go. It's not quite justice, according to the prosecution.
Yeah, I wonder what justice would have been, according to this guy.
Yeah, I don't know. Here's the...
Is it as simple as a first-degree murder charge, or is it something bigger? I imagine he's referring to something bigger.
Reparations. Yeah, more than that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Here is the governor of Minnesota. He's a Democrat. Tim Walz talking about this. He's got a little bit of an interesting angle to this.
We're going to ask folks to come together to have hard conversations in those chambers of the legislature, in our own houses, and for many of you, amongst our own families. Those of us of a certain age, if you're white, it's easy to believe. What's the problem? Things work well. There's good jobs here. You can buy a house. Why can't everybody do this? It's time to have that conversation with your relatives. It's time to have this conversation in every corner of the state that we cannot continue the way we've been going. And the good news about this is there's plenty to go around. We know what works. We need to start applying it. We need to make that commitment. So we have to rebuild, restore, and reimagine the relationship with law enforcement and the communities they serve. We must tackle racial inequities in every corner of our society, from health to home ownership to education. And we have to do it finding that common humanity.
Sounds like a Build Back Better.
I was gonna say we must. I was waiting for him to say "Build Back Better."
Yeah. It was the 3 R's, right? Restore. What was it? Let me find it here.
Works. We need to start applying it. We need to make that commitment. So we have to rebuild, restore, and reimagine the relationship.
Rebuild, restore, reimagine. The 3 R's. Yeah. Kind of like Susan's R's there, responsibility. But there you go. That's the governor of Minnesota using this opportunity to...
Which is funny. Wasn't it Minnesota that did the defunding the police thing?
Yes.
And they did it for 6 months, and it didn't work very well, so they undid it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So not that, then.
Well, yeah, not that.
It's something else.
Something different. But just common humanity. It's just we need us, the people, to figure it out, apparently. Which is kind of what they did there. And of course, Kamala. Kamala, what about you? What do you say? Is this justice?
Today, we feel a sigh of relief. Still, it cannot take away the pain. A measure of justice isn't the same as equal justice. This verdict brings us a step closer, and the fact is, we still have work to do. We still must reform the system.
There it is again. It's not good enough. We got to reform the system. We got to rebuild.
Yeah. I'd love some details on her ideas.
Oh, it's
because it's all just sort of the vagaries of reform.
Vague justice, vague rebuild. I mean, at least the mayor or the governor was like, you got to have conversations. And if you're white, you hear that part? If you're white.
No, I missed it.
You missed it? Oh, here.
No, my white privilege blocked it out.
To believe. What's the problem? Those of us of a certain age, if you're white.
If you're white, a certain age, you're the problem.
Yeah. Gotta have the conversations, baby.
Come on, man. Okay, one more clip here. This is MSNBC, and this guy really isn't happy about anything.
I actually always thought that he would be found guilty because it's sort of a cultural makeup call. But I'm not happy. I'm not pleased. I don't have any sense of satisfaction. I don't think this is a system working. I don't think this is a good thing. What this says to me is that in order to get a nominal degree of justice in this country, that a black man has to be murdered on air, viewed by the entire world. There have to be a year's worth of protests and a phalanx of other white police officers to tell one white officer that he was wrong in order to get one scintilla of justice. That doesn't make me feel happy. That doesn't make me feel satisfied. It makes me worry about what's going to happen when these other officers are held on trial. It makes me upset all the more that we didn't have this for Breonna Taylor. It makes me concerned about what's going to happen in the trial for Ahmaud Arbery. So, no, I mean, this is not the system working. This is a makeup call. This is the justice system trying to say that, hey, this is one bad apple, because that's how this is going to be interpreted. It's going to be this one bad apple. He got in trouble. Yay, blah, blah, blah. And yet there's still going to be young black men and women across this country being shot today, tomorrow, and 2 weeks from now, because unless we have some radical reform, there's no lesson learned.
There you go.
Okay. Now, look, somebody mentioned we're playing vague clips and calling them vague. I am still, I mean, when it comes to the reform, I mean, are you aware of what the reforms are that they're talking about?
I don't think there's a consensus there. I mean, there's different people have different suggestions. Yeah. Some people want reparations financially.
Yeah, the defund the police thing. And I guess maybe some of these people are unaware that they did defund the police in Minneapolis. They did it last year after the original riots, and they made a bunch of reforms and defunded the police and did a whole bunch of that kind of stuff. And it didn't work out. They reversed it after 6 months after homicides were up and crime skyrocketed and the city was in big trouble.
You were excited about this libertarian flair of like the locals policing themselves and their little like militia.
That. Well, it was specifically during the riots when the police were off dealing with the riots and 911 calls were not being attended to, that, responsibly armed citizens who were working towards a common cause of protecting their neighborhoods got together and protected their neighborhoods. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Now, do I think that that's a full-time solution? I think that's a little hard to get, for that to be a long-term solution. But in a response to the police being unavailable, I think that was a great response. I'm unaware of any negative consequences that came of that, but it's just responsible, legal gun owners who believe in the self-responsibility of safety and not the babysitting of the government and the police. Not falling into a victim mentality, instead taking on that protector mentality and protecting their neighborhood. Yeah, I was a huge fan of that. Now, I don't know how that can be an ongoing thing 24/7, but maybe I don't know, maybe there's a mix of things. Now, as far as reform goes, there's a bunch of counties or police departments around the country trying to do that. What are they called? The civilian officers that don't respond to necessarily violent calls or anything, but they do some of the easier stuff so that police can handle the harder stuff. And that's a big reform taking place across the country. But also, that's not new. That's been a thing for many decades.
Is that the mental health thing? Like social workers can come try to talk to people in a situation?
No, not quite. This is more like things like code enforcement, kind of the dumb stuff, parking tickets, stuff like that. Reporting, I think it's mostly code enforcement, honestly. But, it's just freeing up the police. But of course, that's not necessarily the biggest problem. There's not riots and protests and huge social movements to reform code enforcement policing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think there's no clear-cut answer for any of this in like the practical sense, other than, hey, if the propaganda stops, that would be one thing that would really help, don't you think? If the media just went away and people can be informed and they can have real conversations about things, that would probably help a lot more than these politicians and media personalities coming in and trying to tell you what the solution is without really telling you what a solution is for any of this stuff.
Sure.
But we can't do the quoting here of people without your favorite crush in politics, Basil. AOC.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Chuck Schumer.
Oh,
He's my big crush.
Oh, I didn't realize you have a new crush.
That golem of a man.
So weird.
Who's my crush?
AOC.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
You love AOC.
Why are you saying this? What is this coming from?
This verdict is not justice. Frankly, I don't even think we call it full accountability, because there are multiple officers that were there. It wasn't just Derek Chauvin. And I also don't want this moment to be framed as this system working, because it's not working. And
deep thought.
That's what creates a lot of complexity in this moment.
What? Okay. Wait. All right, hold on. Very interesting language there. I don't want this to be framed as the system working.
Yes.
So it's kind of a blatant statement of like, look, I don't want to say it's working, because it's more complex than that. Again, I'm just curious, what would be an example of it working? She mentioned the other officers. What is the deal with the other officers? They gotta be having their own trials, right?
Are they? I don't know. I'm not sure exactly.
They must.
They have to have something.
Hold on, we gotta look here. Hold on. Oh, I have so many tabs. Which one can I change? I can't. New tab, baby.
The other 3 officers in Minneapolis police officers await trial. So yeah, they are going to be going to trial. So the system,
what is the system
AOC,
working?
The system
also, which
takes
system
time.
is she talking about?
Oh, the communist system, maybe? Her commie system is not working. Or the social media system where people just vote on Twitter, whether you're guilty or not, based on Twitter sentiment.
Brainwashing system. Yeah, I mean, she mentioned the other officers. They have their own trials.
Yep.
So, we'll see what happens there. I don't know. I doubt they'll get. Can you even name one of the other officers off the top of your head?
There was that Asian guy,
There was the Asian guy.
Tao Fat or whatever. Whatever. He didn't look like he was in shape either. Hold on. Let me see the names here of Tao Foul. I was close.
Okay.
Tao Fat. J. Alexander Cooing and Thomas Lane.
Okay.
3. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see what happens. Now, if they get convicted, is that the system working?
I don't want to say that it is working even then. but it's complicated. It's complex. It makes it complex.
It's complicated. Yeah. I mean, I guess we can't pick on her too much.
No,
She's
we're
just
not.
doing another vague, just like all the other politicians, making the vaguest possible statement to comment on how it's not over.
But,
racial justice has not been achieved with this one verdict.
I know we're just playing clips, but the clips were sequential for a reason here. You have the prosecution team saying it's not full justice, but it is accountability. And then AOC comes out and says, this isn't even accountability. So, okay, which one is it?
Oh, did she say that?
Yeah.
She said it's not accountability.
This verdict is not justice. Frankly, I don't even think we call it full accountability.
Yeah.
Because of the other three
Because of the
officers.
other three, yeah.
Okay.
Whereas,
interesting. Was her statement made after Kamala? Was this a response to Kamala?
I don't know. I don't have the timeline.
Virtue signaling that she's more.
Maybe, yeah.
That she's kind of like more radical than Kamala.
Probably. That is possible. Yeah, it's possible. The young whippersnapper that she is.
What is it? What is this? I want to hear. I mean, we're hearing a lot about what this isn't from politicians and activists or whatever. What is it? Does this mean anything?
I don't know. I think with AOC, the closest sentiment was the last guy on MSNBC saying that, this is just this is not the system working. This is just if a black man has to die and you have to wait a year for a trial and all these things, it's like, well, yeah,
that is how trials work.
I was gonna say, have you not
this
seen
isn't
how
a
things
lynch
work in
mob.
America? Not that we, and I want to say that, the American justice system is not perfect by any means. There are problems there. I have some serious issues with capitalism, and the more I studied recently, it's gone even more towards the
Commie Guns is coming out.
That's the problem right there. That is the mind control. That if I say I'm not for capitalism, you automatically assume I'm a communist, and that is mind control right there.
I'm just speaking for the people, man. I'm just getting ahead of the YouTube comments.
Mind control intensifies.
That's the mind control speaking. If you reacted and thought, oh, guns must be going commie. That is the propaganda.
I'm just trying to make our capitalist listeners feel seen and heard.
I'll put capitalism in front of communism, but ultimately it's kind of the same thing. It's just a different way.
It's centralized power structures.
That's the same thing.
It's a big problem. I've got a big problem with the concept of centralized power structures, where individuals are put in charge of others and are given the ability to take away their freedoms and rights.
Look at the chat, and I see Commie Cry Radio. Gons is gone. Commie.
You knew you were going to trigger this.
I know.
You knew it.
I know, but I have good reason to. I have a documentary film that is going to cover this stuff. So
hey, I would love to have longer, deeper conversations about the subtleties of capitalisms and centralized authoritarian structures where humans are given power over others. I love it. But that's one of the steps in the right direction that capitalism has over many other systems of authority, which is, there's some room to move around, and the power can shift rather than other power structures where the power is stagnant.
As long as you're complicit to the stakeholders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen the become ungovernable memes?
No.
They're pretty hilarious.
Are they?
I think they're. I think they're generated by kind of the anti-establishment millennials. But it'll just be a picture of like something ridiculous, like a man with a giant slingshot shooting a shovel, and it just says "Become ungovernable."
Sweet.
Yeah. All right.
Cool.
What's next? Let me look at our
one
list
last
here.
thing from this, the whole Chauvin thing here is a CBS News mirrored by MSN. Justice Department opens probe of Minneapolis police after Chauvin verdict. Excuse me, I have the show burps. That's the it's the comrade burps.
Are you playing a clip?
No.
Oh,
this is
okay.
I don't have a clip for this.
Okay.
Attorney General Merrick Garland announced Wednesday the Justice Department has opened a civil investigation into the Minneapolis Police Department's policing practices following the conviction of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin for the death of George Floyd. Floyd's killing caught on camera shocked the nation and sparked widespread protests against police brutality. In brief remarks from the Justice Department, Garland said the sweeping probe will determine whether the Minneapolis Police Department engages in a, quote, pattern or practice of unconstitutional or unlawful policing. The new civil investigation is separate from an ongoing federal criminal probe into Floyd's death from the Justice Department. While Garland praised the verdict rendered by the Hennepin County, Minnesota jury Tuesday, he said it, quote, does not address potentially systemic policing issues in Minneapolis. Quote, most of our nation's law enforcement officers do their difficult jobs honorably and lawfully, he said. I strongly believe that good officers do not want to work in systems that allow bad practices. Good officers welcome accountability because accountability is an essential part of building trust with the community, and public safety requires public trust. The Justice Department's investigation announced by Garland will examine whether Minneapolis Police Department engages in discriminatory conduct and a pattern of using excessive force, including during protests. The department will conduct a, quote, comprehensive review of its policies, training, supervision, and use of force investigations, the Attorney General said. Quote, although the state's prosecution was successful, I know that nothing can fill the void that the loved ones of George Floyd has felt since his death, he said. Garland's remarks came after the jury conviction of Chauvin, da-di-da-di-da. So, Biden, we can't stop. This is Biden talking here. Said in a remark after the verdict, it's a step forward, but said Chauvin's conviction is, quote, much too rare in cases where unarmed black Americans die at the hands of law enforcement. The outcome, the president said, was a result of a, quote, unique and extraordinary convergence of factors. We can't stop here, Mr. Biden said, as he and Vice President Kamala Harris urged Congress to pass a police reform bill named for Floyd. They're going to pass a bill with Floyd's name on it?
Yeah, because it's synonymous with justice now.
George Floyd is justice.
That's what Nancy Pelosi said.
That's right. Yeah, he's a martyr for justice. The president said it is crucial not only for state and local governments to address racial disparities in policing, but also the federal government, and said the leadership he installed at the Justice Department is, quote, committed to restoring trust between law enforcement and the community. You know, part of the effects after the LA riots out here in my neck of the woods was a program for the police, the LAPD, to, provide more balance. I can't remember what it was called. Basically, where they have like racial quotas that they have to meet that reflects the population density of the city or whatever. And then this past year, nothing changed. There's more riots and more BLM and. So
well, the Black Lives Matter co-founder bought some houses.
Oh yeah, the $1.5 million house.
Yeah, actually, there's multiple houses. It came up to about $4 million.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we've talked about how the BLM organization is. I'm
just saying, someone's getting something out of it.
And that was one of the first things that we talked about early on last summer, where it was like all these big institutions, corporations are giving millions, hundreds of millions, totaling to billions of dollars. And where was it all going? Like what was it being spent on? Apparently houses for people in leadership.
Well, and buses.
Oh, and buses.
To bus around protesters. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. But there you go. Yeah, it's again, we mentioned earlier about the changes. Maybe this is one of those changes, the catalyst for police reform or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what these types of investigations into the systemic policing problems have been going on all over the country. I'm interested. It's an interesting fact. Now, this is the Department of Justice proper digging into the Minneapolis Police Department. Interesting how it took this long, but they were waiting till after the Chauvin verdict. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Well, there's more to go. Maybe this is what these politicians are referring to, that this wasn't enough. Maybe they're just setting up setting the scene for this investigation.
It's possible. Yeah. And it's a great catalyst to change, what they're talking about, like the reform, the whatever it was, the 3 R's that the governor of Minnesota was talking about. Because ultimately, the way you would create a true police state is not necessarily by force, but by the desire of the people. We want reform, we want change, and if there's a reason to change because of these reasons of these police training and stuff like that being an overreach, then hey, we can fix it, and that's exactly when the police state can really come in.
Yeah,
government-sponsored police state.
Yeah, well, that's another dangerous part of reform in general. Not that reform is bad altogether, but we've heard the rumblings of privatized police forces over the past year or so in response to what's been going on, because the government-led police, has riled people up so much that the talk about privately owned police forces has been thrown around. And I mean, you want to talk about the dangers of capitalism when you can have a private police force owned by a corporation protecting your city. That's there you go. Now you're getting into some pretty spooky apocalyptic situations. I do want to mention I don't know why I feel led to mention this, but I feel very led to mention this. When we throw around the terms capitalism and communism, they're actually not government terms. Those are economic terms.
Those are economic, yes. I understand that.
So it's a little bit of a misnomer to talk about communism as a form of government. It's technically a form of economics. But there you go.
Yeah, there is more of
same
a
with capitalism. Capitalism is not. Now you have capitalism in government when lobbyists are being paid money to pay money in a capitalist system to get too involved with government, and of course communism being a government-led economy. They're not divorced from government, but they're not types of government.
Right. Well, yes. That's important to clarify, but also it is kind of a messy web, because communism is sort of it's like it encompasses all. The economics is really the foundation of it, but it's a philosophical and political and social. It's all the stuff. So
right,
and capitalism appears to be just more of an economic model, but like you said, when you
of course. Capitalism has a wonderful place in the American government.
When you need legislative support for some kind of advancement in some common capitalistic good or service, then you really start to get in bed with the government there. So
I see some people disagreeing with me in the chat. I mean, it's not a thing to have an argument about. You just read about it. Communism and capitalism are economic systems, not technically governmental systems.
You could say socioeconomic, and that'll maybe tame them. No? Still coming after you?
I mean, it's an economic system that puts the means of production in the control of the government.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, it matters, but
it matters.
It's not worth
splitting hairs
diving
over
into
at this
when we have
moment.
so much else to talk about in this show.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we move on to this next story? The other catalytic event that happened yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, amidst all this Chauvin talk.
Yeah, this is coming from 10tv.com. Happened
CBS.
yesterday. Yes, it's a what?
It's a CBS affiliate out in...
Oh, okay. CBS
Ohio.
affiliate. Body cam footage shows fatal police shooting of 16-year-old girl in southeast Columbus. The Columbus Division of Police has released body cam footage hours after the fatal shooting of a 16-year-old girl on the city's southeast side by a police officer. Officers were called to the 3100 block of Legion Lane, north of Chatterton Road, just after 4:30 p.m. for a disturbance. Let's see here. What time zone is this in? Columbus,
East.
Ohio. Is that east or is that central?
I think that's, I think that's east.
Okay, check into that, because 4:30 would be a very
Eastern.
interesting time.
Eastern.
What is Minneapolis in? That's in Central Time, right?
It's got to be Central Time Zone. Yep.
Okay, so let's see. This would have been 40 minutes before the verdict? Am I reading that correctly? Doesn't matter. According to Interim Chief Michael Woods.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I think it would be... no, hold on. Let me look that up. It's just...
Okay, why don't you figure that out? Yeah, because the verdict for Michael Chauvin was at about 4:10 or 4 o'clock, and this happened at 4:30.
I thought it was 5 Eastern Time.
I believe it was 4 something, because they showed the clock after after he was escorted out of the courtroom. The camera panned up to the clock, and the clock read 4:10.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was really 4:10. Weird.
Okay, yeah, 4:10. It was Central Time, so it would be 5:10 in Ohio.
Yeah, so Minneapolis
right
is in
before.
Central Time.
Yeah, you're right. About 40 minutes before the verdict.
Okay, I was just wondering if this happened right after the verdict, it would have been interesting to connect those things. According to Interim Chief Michael Woods, a caller reported females were trying to stab them. A dispatcher tried to obtain more information but was unable to before the call was disconnected. The footage released by police came from the first officer on the scene. In the video, the teen appears to attempt to stab 2 people with a knife before the officer fires his weapon. Chief Woods said officers immediately assessed her for injuries, called for a medic, and began CPR per division policy. During this time, an officer can be heard saying, quote, "She came at her with a knife." The teen was taken to Mount Carmel East in critical condition, where she was later pronounced dead. It's unclear whether anyone else was injured. Though police declined to release her name, the teen's mother identified her as Makia Bryant. Franklin County Children's Services also confirmed Makia as the teen who was fatally shot. According to Children's Services, Makia was a foster child under their care. Paula and another family member said Makia called the police for help because the girls were fighting outside her house. Said Makia called the police. Interesting. In a statement tweeted Tuesday evening, Mayor Andrew Ginther said, quote, "A young woman tragically lost her life." During the news conference, Ginther said, quote, "We know based on the footage, the officer took action to protect another young girl in our community. Following the shooting, member of Mothers of Murdered Columbus Children and others have gathered in the area. One person with a sign reading, quote, "Enough is enough," and another with, quote, "Black Kids Matter." A crowd of demonstrators has gathered outside the Columbus Division of Police's downtown headquarters as well, chanting, "Say her name, Makia Bryant." Chief Woods said the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation is leading the investigation into the shooting. The NAACP of Columbus, Ohio, posted this statement on their Twitter page overnight. "Another black child was killed by the police. Our condolences to the family and loved ones of Makia Bryant." And then it starts another article with Jen Psaki talking about it, but we'll circle back on that later.
Sorry, Jen Psaki tried to infiltrate our show.
Tried to play. Yeah, I know. She tried to play on my side, too.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. As the body cam footage that's been they released the body cam footage almost immediately, which is interesting. That almost never happens.
Yeah. And obviously, the reason why I had this particular article from 10WBNS originally is part of the story to report here was because the clip or the news clip that they had here basically showed the vest cam footage right until the point where Ma'Khia Bryant clearly she reaches her arm back and there's like a clear view of a knife in her hand. And right before that image, they stopped it and they went to something else, and they literally paused it and started talking about something else. And for what this is one of those upgrading or updating pages, so I lost the video of that that story or that report from the news. But I thought it was interesting. It was like, oh, you guys stopped the clip right when the knife was super obvious and visible. It's one of those things that's really unfortunate. You don't want anybody 16 years old passing away, especially from a police shooting or any reason really. But in this regard or in this situation, I would say the police probably did the right thing. And there's a girl in pink, and she we haven't heard anything from her, the one that was attacked, but I'm sure her and her family are doing, or are at least thankful. That something, the police intervened, because otherwise it would have been a black on black crime, or another woman being stabbed. So it's just one of those things.
Well, never let a good crisis go to waste. This has obviously been jumped on by protesters and things like that. Now, this has been an interesting one. There was the message from the mother that Ma'Khia, what's the actual quote here, had a motherly nature about her. She promoted peace, which is a difficult statement to square with the video where she tries to stab two people. And, you jump on just the threads, the Twitter threads, the social medias, a lot of talk about, okay, well, yeah, she was being violent, but why not shoot her in the leg or shoot her in the hand or things like that, it's just kind of ironic because when Joe Biden came out and said, hey, no, after the George Floyd killing, or was it it was a shooting. I can't remember it was one of the main, flashpoints shootings that happened in 2020. He came out and kind of bumbled around and said, shoot him in the leg, saying this exact thing, and was excoriated by the left, by the activists, by the politicians. Joe Biden saying shoot him in the leg. He was completely ripped apart for this idea. And now, you go through and you've got people saying, hey, you should have shot this 16-year-old in the leg to disable them. But, of course, there's conversations around could have used a taser. But, of course, we've had the taser conversation lately. I will say the idea of shooting a perp in the hand that they're holding a weapon in is a completely fabricated Hollywood nonsense concept. That is such a difficult shot to make in general that only superhero FBI agents in Hollywood can shoot someone in the hand before they get to shoot their gun. It's a complete fantasy. And as far as police training goes with shooting, and we've gone through this on so many of these shooting stories, police are not trained to disable somebody with a gunshot. And maybe this goes to a conversation about shooting, or training rather. Maybe this is a training that can be implemented, but there is not one police training system in America, at least, that will ever train a police officer to shoot someone in the leg to disable them. Right now, that is the case. When police are trained to shoot, they're trained to shoot the kill, and that's it. There is no other option. So
I don't know if that's true. I think they're trained to neutralize the subject. Is the proper term they use? They're not necessarily
okay,
trained.
that's fine. You can use the term neutralize, but that is a fancy word for kill. They're not trained to disable someone, shoot them in the leg, or anything like that.
I'll agree with you there. Yeah, they're not trained to like just try to disable them, shoot them in the leg. Although there's footage of I don't know if you remember, but there's like a footage of two black officers, a male and a female officer. And they're in some train station, and they're trying to basically get this big white guy to like calm down. And one of the cops goes, "Shoot him in the leg! Shoot him in the leg!" So I don't know. Maybe it depends on the situation.
Maybe. I'm sure that video exists. I'm just telling you the police training. I'll use the word neutralize. It's all about body mass. You shoot for the torso. You don't try to shoot a moving limb.
Right.
Because it's very difficult to do, and B, in the case of Makia, at least from the body cam footage of the incident, which is the police officer's angle, you see the knife hand. If he first of all, a bullet goes through a hand. Let's say he has the magical Hollywood training and cyborg brain to be able to think, shoot that moving hand that is actively stabbing someone. The bullet would have gone through the hand and shot the person he's trying to protect. So it's just like, I'm trying to be cool. It's just complete fantasy to want this guy to shoot that knife out of the hand of this teenager. And I can't believe I'm even having to be serious about this, but even in our chat today, there's people saying this. But that's one of the main conversations going on the Twitter thread, which is hilarious because it's this, again, goes back to this double speak, double standard, double, whatever, because, hey, when Biden says to shoot him in the leg, the left goes completely bonkers. But, in this case, there's just no winning, I guess, for these police officers is the problem, which is unfortunate because we're running out of police officers. Nobody wants to be a cop anymore.
Why would you want to be a cop in this climate? That's part of it. I really think that is part of the mind control propaganda machinery thing here, is to disenfranchise any kind of police at all from human intervention and move it towards robot intervention or surveillance intervention of some kind, or some kind of technocratic mechanical machine intervention, because they can't make mistakes, right? They're better at accuracy and all this. But also, particular to this story here, I also think it's a gun control thing. If once it gets picked up, it'll be a gun control, because it's either going to serve the gun control conversation or the race conversation. And in this case, I think they're going to pick it up with the gun thing, because the race thing, obviously, she had a knife in her hand. It's kind of it's hard to argue that point.
It's a complicated situation. And the thing about it is it's more visibly complicated in the body cam footage. Yeah. The subtleties and complexity of the George Floyd case are lost because there's no footage of, toxicology or any the real footage. Just shows the 9 minutes of Chauvin's crime.
Right.
Again, not to compare the two. I'm just saying this is a particularly complex situation because it is so clear in the footage. I mean, if a Hollywood director wanted to frame the knife in this girl's hand as it's swinging at the other girl, he couldn't do it any better.
Right. LeBron James tweeted this out, and then he deleted the tweet. It's a picture of the officer who shot Ma'Khia Bryant. "You're next. # accountability." With But I think he deleted it because he realized not a good look.
Yeah.
Not a good look,
Yeah,
LeBron.
because he probably didn't see the video or do anything. He just heard about it, saw a tweet, maybe saw a headline, didn't have the details, and deleted it. And also, that's very threatening. That could be taken as
he's threatening
a threat against his life.
Yeah,
which
I'm sure if
for LeBron is a dangerous move.
Hand-to-hand combat, LeBron has size and everything else edge over the officer there.
Not to mention influence.
You think?
Yeah.
Wonder how many Twitter followers this police officer has.
LeBron is seen as calling for the killing of this officer. That is bad news.
No, not good. That'll mobilize the whole other thing. That's not good at all. So he deleted it, but and it goes into the whole thing I read earlier with the color, communism, and common sense, where these celebrities kind of come in and chime in and they mobilize certain groups, whether they know it or not. But anyway, it's an unfortunate situation when a life is lost, regardless of what the situation is. That part of it is upsetting, but again, I really think that this is like the longer play here, the longer setup is for either some wild technologies, like more than stun guns, some kind of I don't know, laser thing that's totally neutralizes people without killing them, or which could be handed down by the aliens, or the robots. I really think the robot thing is in play.
The robots.
I know it sounds ridiculous, but seriously, I think that's where things are headed. I mean,
when an AI logic chooses to neutralize, an enemy, how can you argue with the robotic logic?
Can't argue with it. Yeah.
There's also an interesting play if you put it against the gun control thing, and in the context of the what was his name? Dante Wright. The taser, accidental taser, non-taser.
Oh, yeah. The multiple taser and then get shot. Didn't he live?
No, he died. But the officer, allegedly thought she was pulling her taser and then pulled her pistol.
Oh, this is the more recent one. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I haven't been keeping up with the names.
And when that came out, I mean, it was very obvious in the context of narrative building, like it's an anti-gun thing, because if the gun didn't exist there, if there was no gun and only taser, then she would have used the taser. And in this case, people feel that the force was too much, and they want him to have, shot her hand or her leg or used a taser. But just to get a little, to look into the future. If you look at a gun control play, it could be take the guns away from the police, make them all use tasers. Oh, well, now all the bad guys, now the whole country is armed with guns, but the police only have tasers. Well, guess we got to disarm the people now because the police are ineffective. Similar to like a UK gun control play.
Yeah, that would be interesting. That's like a reverse.
Disarming the police gives a bigger reason to disarm the population.
Right. That's a good one.
It's a long shot, but as far as the narrative crafting, it's a possibility.
I don't foresee any time in the near future in our lifetime, unless the Lord returns, that the police department will be entirely void of having firearms. I just don't see that happening. But
but in the UK, I think they actually switched it now. I think it was recently officers were given guns again. But in the UK, the way it worked was, police officers just had their baton, and turns out they were a little bit more liberal with the use of their baton, and that's all they have.
You take them down to the baton level, they'll just use it freely.
Were used quite often. But so, an average patrolling police officer did not have a weapon, but then, there were like our version of the SWAT team and special armed units that would be brought in if that was needed. which, of course, not all police would be completely disarmed, especially after the gajillions of dollars police forces in America have spent in militarizing themselves.
Yeah. I'm just going to type in here to our prediction list, Basel, U.S. police force to ban guns.
No, I don't think. I mean,
I'll throw it in there.
I don't think it'll happen. My prediction is that will become a very serious conversation, disarming the police.
Okay. All right. All right. Yeah, just for the sake of.
I don't think it would work either. It's just the narrative fits.
Right.
If we're looking for a future narrative, that does fit.
Yes. Well, speaking
of, are you
all
putting dates on these?
Yes, I am.
Okay, cool.
Speaking of all this this stuff related to race.
Poly. It's Latin for many. Tick. Now suck your blood. Now suck politics. Your blood.
We have a story here. This is the nationalreview.com, and it has to do with our buddy Biden.
Got hairy legs. Got hairy legs.
And the headline here is Biden set to push critical race theory on U.S. schools.
Of course.
Whoopee. And it says the woke. See, this is like super right wing, isn't it? The National Review.
I don't know. I don't know much about the National Review. Usually it's pretty easy to tell. You just read headlines.
Let me read the first sentence. The woke revolution in the classroom is about to go federal.
Yeah, okay.
I think this is right.
This is a pretty far right-leaning outlet.
Yeah. In an early but revelatory move, President Biden's Department of Education has signaled its intent to impose the most radical forms of critical race theory on America's schools, very much intended, including the 1619 Project and the so-called anti-racism of Ibram X. Kendi. Kendi's anti-racism, which advocates a massive and indefinite expansion of reverse discrimination, is more like neo-racism, in parentheses. Biden is obviously co-opting conservatives' interest in reviving traditional U.S. history and civics to deliver its perfect opposite, federal imposition of the very ideas conservatives aim to combat. Biden's Department of Education has released the text of a proposed new rule establishing priorities for grants in American history and civics education programs. The rule gives priority to grant, quote, projects that incorporate racially, ethnically, culturally, and linguistically diverse perspectives, end quote. The rule goes on to cite and praise the New York Times' landmark 1619 Project, as well as the work of critical race theorist Kendi, as leading examples of the sort of ideas the Biden administration wants to spread. The program, immediately targeted by Biden's new priority criteria for American history and civics grants, are small. Once in place, however, those criteria will undoubtedly influence the much larger and vastly more dangerous, quote, Civics Secures Democracy Act. That bill would appropriate, $1 billion a year for 6 years for history and civic education. Support for leftist action civics is already written into the priority criteria of the bill itself. I have argued that additional anodyne-sounding priority criteria in the Civics Secures Democracy Act, criteria favoring grants targeted to undeserved populations, and the mitigation of various racial, ethnic, and linguistic achievement gaps, would be interpreted by the Biden administration as a green light to fund critical race theory in the schools. The new draft federal rule for grant priority.
This is so ironic being done by Biden and his how he doesn't want his kids growing up in a racial jungle comments,
right,
and his poor kids are just as smart as white kids comment.
Yeah. The new draft federal rule for grant priority in American history and civics education makes it clear that this is indeed the Biden administration's intent. The Biden administration's interest in pushing critical race theory on American schools could already be gleaned from the president's repeated endorsement of the notion that America is systemically racist. Biden's statement to that effect are actually cited in the new federal rule. It's of interest as well that the new rule explicitly endorses the wave of woke critical race theory currently sweeping through America's schools. Biden's new American history and civics rule also expresses support for, quote, culturally responsive teaching. The ultra woke and utterly politicized pedagogy derived from critical race theory that was recently imposed on teachers in Illinois. At this point, the sprinkling of congressional Republicans and conservative education establishment figures who foolishly bought into bogus bipartisan efforts to revive the teaching of American history and civics need to repudiate their misbegotten alliances. We needn't wait to see how the Biden administration will implement federal efforts to support American history and civics. This new rule tells us all we need to know. We are set for a huge showdown over federal efforts to press leftist action, civics, and critical race theory on the states. He goes into what needs to be done.
So what exactly is the manifestation of the critical race theory that he's talking about here? I heard something about giving grants, using the government grants, but that's not necessarily teaching critical race theory. That's just...
He's claiming, look at the documents, the details here of the proposed priorities of American history and civics education. I'm looking at it now. Department of Education... Let me pull the PDF up to see if we can get... Ooh, it's a big... 4 pages. I'm not going to read the 4 pages. 3 columns per page here. Let me see if there's any mention of critical race theory in particular.
See, that's kind of the hard part about parsing it on a right-leaning outlet is...
Yeah, they'll kind of just assume things.
They'll use the words critical race theory as sort of a very broad ideological term when it might, critical race theory proper might not be the curriculum or the I don't know how to put it. But.
So the article quoted it here, but the 1619 project is mentioned, so it's not entirely made up there. They mention incorporate racially, ethnically, culturally, and linguistically diverse perspectives. And then it has racial equity conversations, improving racial equity throughout society.
This leftist action civics is already written into the priority criteria. Wow, my brain isn't working today.
Yeah, so I'm not going to say that it's not critical race theory, but it doesn't explicitly state that. But I think when you're mentioning the 1619 project from the New York Times, more or less, it's the same thing. So again, they didn't use the exact words there, but I'd say close enough. But in general, this is not a great thing. If it becomes a standard in all schools.
Well, even just if it is critical race theory proper, which is a sort of spiritual progeny of Marxism. Yeah. And again, I don't want to use just the terms Marxism and critical race theory as sort of like shock words, but it's very well known that the propagators and I would say inventors of critical race theory are pretty devout Marxists. And Marxism itself focuses on separating people by identity. Marxism is just sort of like the enriched uranium of identity politics.
It's more. It was framed more in the context of economics, right, and class.
It actually talked a lot about race specifically. In fact, even going back to the content that you read at the top of the show. Sort of activating the black people of the time to help the classist overthrow or whatever for the workers to take over. It was more classist in a broad sense, but it's paid particular attention to different races and activating them, and identity politics as sort of its main catalyst.
Whoa! Oh my gosh!
Christmas already?
Why would you do that to me?
Yeah.
Classrooms.
Was that me or was that you?
No, that was me. Classrooms.synonym.com just decided to blast. This is what you get when you have advertisers on web pages.
Yeah, I know.
I read quite a bit of Marx in college. I studied sociology in college. So, and I don't remember the race thing being mentioned a lot. There was a lot more economic talk then.
Yeah.
But I don't, I know there was race talk there, and obviously, you talk about Stalin.
Well, maybe because you didn't have critical race theory in your classes.
It wasn't
they didn't
as prevalent.
Cover the racial part.
It wasn't as prevalent. 2001 to 2005, 2006, it wasn't at the forefront of the public universities. So
yeah.
Things
change quick around here, guys.
It does. I was more learning about. But I will say it wasn't anti-communist or anti-socialist though. They were pretty. They were pretty socialist with their teaching.
Southern California University system there.
Yep. The UC system.
All right. Well, along similar lines. Are you ready to move on?
Yes.
Did you have more to go?
No,
there?
No, go ahead.
Okay, this is coming from dailymail.co.uk. Woo! Headline is U.S. must prepare for nuclear war.
Whoa!
Strategic Command. I know, it's been a while.
Whoa!
Huh? Strategic Command warns today's unpredictable conflicts could escalate rapidly, where countries consider nuclear as their quote their least bad option. Their least bad option. U.S. Strategic Command will warn in its annual posture statement that the, quote, spectrum of conflict today could rapidly lead to nuclear war. Commander Charles Richard will give testimony to the House Armed Services Committee and the Senate Committee on Armed Services this week. The posture review informs Congress on the state of Strategic Command and what it intends to do with its 2022 budget request. Sounds like they're just wanting more money in the budget request. This was their tweet.
The threat is the best way to do it.
Yeah, nuclear war. Remember that? We need more money. This was a tweet from the official U.S. Strategic Command Twitter account, which was a weird way to put this out.
No, this was the part that was like, oh, okay.
Hashtag US Stratcom posture statement preview. They're just giving a little teaser. The spectrum of conflict today is neither linear nor predictable. We must account for the possibility of conflict leading to conditions which could very rapidly drive an adversary to consider nuclear use as their least bad option. Love it. Least bad. It also determines the least bad.
Look at the logo for the United States Strategic Command.
I don't know if you'd ever seen this before. I just never really looked at it. It's you've got the Earth in the background with some like orbital patterns with 4 stars on those orbital patterns. I'm assuming that represents like satellites and stuff. And then you've got a gauntleted hand, an armored iron hand reaching into the middle there with 3 red lightning bolts, and then I'm gonna consider that an olive branch.
An olive branch
type of thing.
Strike you down, but also olive branch because we're trying to.
But see how the iron hand with red lightning bolts is in front of the olive branch.
Yes.
He's not actually holding the olive branch. Now, it's sort of like an armored knight, like gauntlet hand. But when I saw it, I immediately went like, oh, robots, cyborg hand.
Yeah. Or iron fist.
Yes, I'm sure that's more what they were thinking. The article continues, it also determines the command's readiness for combat, its strategic vision, and likely causes of conflict in the near future. Strategic Command said in a preview of their statement on Monday, the spectrum of conflict today is neither linear nor predictable. We must account for the possibility of conflict leading to conditions which could very rapidly drive an adversary to consider nuclear use as their least bad option. The testimony will be heard on Tuesday and Wednesday and will be delivered by Commander Richard alongside U.S. Space Command's Commander James Dickinson's. Woo, Space Command. Ahead of the review, he said his force has the difficult position of trying to prepare for a war that has never been fought before. The Army general told The Hill, quote, United States Space Command faces a unique dilemma in that we can't plan for future conflicts based on how we fought previous conflicts, even if we were inclined to do so. Rather, we are preparing for the war not yet fought. Quote, why do we need to prepare for such a conflict when space has traditionally been a peaceful domain, open to all for exploration, and whose benefits improve the lives of virtually every human being on Earth? I would question that statement. The benefits of space improve the lives of virtually every person on Earth. I mean, I guess
if they take the mark of the beast,
if they have a satellite phone, as I will. Oh, I guess GPS. Yeah. Unless you're a flat earther. Okay, moving on. As I will soon testify to Congress, the answer is because highly capable competitors realize the extraordinary military and economic advantages that space-based capabilities give to the United States and our allies. Commander Dickinson noted that China is rapidly building military space capabilities, including anti-satellite weapons, while Russia has already conducted a number of space missile tests. Such threats could harm U.S. communication systems and the West's extraordinary reliance on space for modern technology. The military review comes at a time of fraught relations with Russia amid major military exercises in the Black Sea that prompted Joe Biden to send 2 battleships to the region. Vladimir Putin has deployed more than 100,000 troops along the Ukrainian border and in the Crimea, where a new military camp was revealed by satellite imagery on Monday. Interesting. They haven't mentioned that Biden turned those ships around after Putin told him to. That story is still a little shaky to me, but let's keep going. Moscow's military says it is conducting exercises. You know, we've covered this Russia-Ukraine thing for the past couple episodes at least. But Biden has called for the Russian president to de-escalate tensions and proposed a summit which could take place in Finland in the coming months. The move has been hailed as a win by Moscow after Biden previously took a hard line against Putin, calling him a killer and refusing to meet with him on the basis that he was too busy. There you go. So yeah, Stratcom is prepared for the big show, it sounds like.
Yeah, I guess we better get ready for the nuclear fallout and, all the apocalyptic realities that's been pounded into our heads.
Or at least just let the brainwashing sink in, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. If everyone's in VR helmets in like 5 years anyway, you can have a VR nuclear world and people will think that we're in a nuclear, conflict, but then in reality,
yeah,
it won't be.
I think this is more of a funding move to get more money.
Yeah.
For Stratcoms. I mean, I guess what they're trying to imply is that, Russia is positioning itself for some big war with Ukraine, and somehow that would lead to nuclear strikes on the U.S.
Of course. Come on.
It always goes there, doesn't it?
Always going to land in the U.S. It sort of reminded me of a Bushism. I was showing you a couple of them before we started streaming today.
Yeah, you were really going on a rampage of old Bush clips.
Well, there was, because, we have some younger listeners, and they may not remember or may not have even been around when, people think that Trump or Biden is like the first to be pretty provocative or, gaff up a press conference or something like that. But they're wrong. It's been going on for a long time. And Bush Jr., George W. Bush, had one of the most famous, I don't know, gaffes in public. They were called Bushisms because they were so, I don't know. Bush did it a lot.
Yeah.
But, this was him talking. This is George W. Bush. I can't remember what year it was. What year is this? I don't remember. But basically he's talking about Iran or Iraq and weapons of mass destruction, because we were in there with the whole war and post 9/11 and all that kind of stuff. And here's what he said at the press conference.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, "Fool me once, shame on you." If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
I think he didn't want to say shame on me, so he was like, you can't get fooled again.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, maybe he was hyper aware of not having the sound clip available.
It's just one of those great moments where he just... There's another one that I ran into while we were setting up the show where Bush Jr. is talking about the weapons of mass destruction and, terrorists. He's on the golf course. If Trump would have done what Bush Jr. did here, oh my gosh, the Twitterverse would have the liberals would have a meltdown.
Yeah, do you have the clip?
Let me pull it up. Bush golf course.
It's worth it. It's a good one. It harkens back to a different time in such a beautiful way.
Let me see if it's got to be here. Oh, here it is.
We must stop the terror. Call upon all nations to do everything they can to stop these terrorist killers. Thank you. Now watch this drive.
We must stop the terror.
There, I said the thing you wanted me to say. Now watch this drive. Cuts to him hitting a golf ball. Trump was a golfer. Maybe that's why he never did interviews on the golf course. He's smart. He's not going to look like a doofus like Bush Jr. did, talking about world problems and terrorists, and then allowing the media to film him hit a golf ball right after. Just now watch this drive.
Not a good look, Mr. Skull and Bones over there. All right, anyway, just thought I'd throw that in there because it does harken back to a time that it was less politically divisive. Although this made the headlines and people were, I don't know, I guess people were eye-rolling. I mean, Bush Jr. wasn't loved by all, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But one more politics story before we'll get into a break here. This one is a little bit more local to my neck of the woods here, but this has to do with some monies. Los Angeles Times Mayor Garcetti's $24 million anti-poverty program would give cash to LA residents.
Ooh, cash. Okay. Now we're talking about some UBI here.
Yes, but it's more than just basic income. It's guaranteed basic income. A new citywide anti-poverty proposal by Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti would give cash, strings-free, to thousands of city residents in the coming months. Garcetti's $24 million...
Strings-free.
Yeah, strings-free. Garcetti's $24 million Basic Income Guaranteed program. That's what it's called, Basic Income Guaranteed. Which will be included in his city budget to be released Tuesday, would provide $1,000 a month to 2,000 Los Angeles families for a year. There will be no obligation on how to spend the money, according to the mayor's office. Progressive mayors across the country have embraced such universal basic income programs, which typically provide a monthly stipend to a small pool of residents. Initiatives in Stockholm and Jackson, Mississippi have already been launched.
It's Stockton.
Oh, did I say Stockholm?
Yeah.
That was a Freudian slip. Although maybe those people in Stockton do have Stockholm syndrome. Anyway, and other cities are exploring similar initiatives. Already, the Los Angeles City Council has unveiled plans to spend more than $11 million in funds diverted from the Los Angeles Police Department budget.
Oh.
There it is. On initiatives in South LA and the San Fernando Valley on such programs. In the South LA district, represented by Councilman Curran Price. Oh, this guy. I know a little bit about Curran Price. He's a handful. Program will provide $1,000 per month for a year to 500 households headed by single parents. It's expected to launch this summer. Additional programs are being floated in the districts represented by Councilman Marquise Harris Dawson, Council President Nuri Martinez, and Councilman Mark Ridley Thomas. A Garcetti spokesman said the $24 million allocation for a citywide program would be in addition to those proposed efforts. The mayor's budget requires approval by the city council. The program is expected to be highlighted in Garcetti's annual State of the City speech Monday night. Garcetti is a member of the mayors of the Basic Guaranteed Income, which launched last year and advocates for a guaranteed income to the local, state, and federal levels. Quote, too many Americans are one missed paycheck away from an eviction or being unable to put food on the table. And that was true long before COVID-19, Garcetti said in a statement when the group launched. This is the anti guy. John Copel, president of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Association, said his group opposes such programs unless they are paid for with private dollars. Government programs that, quote, give away free money discount the value of work, he said. Quote, when people are employed, they develop social networks. They learn to interact with their fellow human beings, he said. The value of work is well documented, and just giving people free money discounts the value of being a productive member of society, end quote.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Defund the police. Interesting. Fund the poor people.
Yeah, well, it's very interesting to see that this is being taking place on the city level, because something this big, which of course was talked about on a federal level by candidates like Andrew Yang,
right?
And I think it's just too big and too controversial to happen on a federal or even state level. So really, all these mayors, they're all buddies. They go to mayor conferences, they hang out, they all talk about how to run cities together. It's a whole thing. And this looks like one of these. They were all at a conference and all said, okay, let's try this out, because it's too big, too controversial to be implemented by, higher ups. But as far as a local city level goes, it's a great way for a mayor to continue. It's basically buying votes in a way,
It's buying the poor vote, literally buying the poor vote.
Yeah.
I'm just looking up some numbers here. There's about 3.3 million families in Los Angeles with about a 10 million population. So what is it? 2,000 families receiving this money?
It's a pilot project.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a little pilot project. That's now. It sounds like 24 million sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. It's not a lot of money, but for the budgets that LA is working with, it's not like a.
It's not a lot.
Yeah, it's a drop in the bucket compared to LA's annual budget for different things.
I'm pretty sure the LAPD budget annually is 1.4 billion. So.
Yeah. I remember when they were talking about defunding, it was like 1.4 billion, and they're like, okay, we're going to defund to 1.3 billion. It's like, oh.
What are you going to do with the rest of that money? Well, we'll give it to the poor people.
Yeah.
Which, in principle, I don't mind money being redistributed to some degree, but, when it's done with political reasons behind it, that's when it's kind of disgusting. But
well, it's a difficult situation because of course you think about like welfare program, and there's plenty of people who have benefited from welfare programs, and certainly people need it maybe especially on like a temporary basis, to not completely lose your entire life because of some bad situations that's happened. But the strings attached parts of welfare has been really almost an act of warfare against, I'll say with the black population especially. It's well known that in the early days of welfare back in the 30s, there was the no man in the house rule, which means, if you're a poor black family and you want to get this welfare, the father needs to move out of the house, which was, ended up splitting up black families and creating sort of a culture of the father being out of the house. And then they did change that in the 60s. You could have a man in the house, but it couldn't be the father of the children or something like that. So it like got the good PR of not of saying, no, you can have a man in the house, but it just couldn't be the father of your children, which again continued to break up black families. One of the biggest problems, in the black community as far as children growing up without a father, and so. When they're talking about this guaranteed income, this no strings attached thing, it's a good experiment to try to help people out without, putting weird strings attached that might inevitably make society worse.
Yeah. I don't believe him when he says that, though, because just like with, social media platforms being free, there's always like a catch. There's always some kind of catch. So maybe at this scale, it's they're floating it out there, no strings attached. But as it grows, if it does spread, guaranteed there's going to be strings or even invisible strings to the public attached.
Yeah, well, you even think about just the sneakiness that we've seen through Facebook and other big tech companies. Yeah, maybe there's no like rules technically that you have to accomplish for the city, but you get your direct deposit, so you got to sign up your bank account. Now the city has all your bank account information. They see your spending. They get a little pilot project on following your credit card purchases. Maybe there's like a EULA attached to it, where it's like, oh, it's no strings attached. We just, get to mine your data and whatever. I don't know. I have no reason. I have no evidence to any of those things, but it's just the
it's
concept.
Common sense.
Nothing's for free.
Yeah, nothing's for free. And it's common sense to think that, we'll know who you are, and we'll track you, and we'll see. Of course, they say they don't care how you spend it, but maybe they will, or maybe there'll be other ways to nail people if they're using that money for good reasons for the community.
Yeah, so I don't know. There's also the issue of taxation. Is this money taxed? Because an extra $12,000 for somebody. The way that the tax system works, if you start making more slightly over a certain amount of money, your tax rate increases. So I would love to see the math on the 2,000 families that they choose. And does this extra $12,000 put them in a new tax bracket?
Right.
And then does it turn out that in this new tax bracket, they end up paying back all of it and maybe more? This might be
it's a money laundering scheme using the poor.
It could be a money laundering scheme using the poor, or even profitable, even if it's not, it's just interesting. There's so many little details that they like to present it as so simple, no strings attached. Here's $1,000. That's the end of it.
Right.
But there's so many other ways that it can go wrong if you don't pay attention.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll keep an eye on this stuff. It's, you talk about the mark of the beast, and you can't buy or sell. It's an economic model, and that's why we keep track of it. And there's a conversation I had with Dr. Mike Bennett, Dr. Future, that we'll release at some point. And he made a good point, an observation. It's an obvious observation, but it's good to point out that in the end times, the very last thing to fall, like when Mystery Babylon falls, it effectively is the world economic system that falls. Like that's the very last thing to go. So it's just something to keep in mind, because you talk about the beast and the kings of the earth fornicating with Mystery Babylon and all this kind of stuff. It's all most of it has to do with economic trade and all this. So that is the system that, again, that's why I'm looking at capitalism going, interesting.
It certainly could use some tweaking.
Yeah.
And one last thing, just to state, because we have people, $1,000 a month in LA.
Yeah, not going to do much.
Is nothing. I mean, that's like, it's kind of like the COVID relief. Like, oh, you've made no money for 6 months. Well, here is $600, baby. Go nuts.
And Joe Biden's coming. Come on, $600. You can get like 8,000 candy bars for $600.
How much could a banana possibly cost? $10. Okay, little joke there for some Arrested Development fans. All right, what do you think? Should we take a little breaky poo?
Let's do the break here.
It's break time. Come on, take a break.
The screaming man in the background of the break jingle is just so wonderful.
I like how you said before we started the show, because we kept delaying because you had some technical issues and whatever. You were like, oh, it'll be short. And in the back of my mind, I thought, no, it's not. It's not going to be short.
It's never short. The show's never short. No matter how much we complain, no matter what, it's always a long show. But that's okay. So we're going to take a quick break. Anybody out there? Anybody out there? Is anybody listening? We're just going to take a quick short break, but don't worry. After the break, we're going to get into some WACCINE updates. So if you want to stay posted with how the coronavirus pandemic and the WACCINE problem-solving crew has to say, you're going to want to stick around. There's also some Shibi Praketin witchcraft updates there.
I think we're going to end the show there. I'm going to move that other story to...
Next show,
yeah.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so there you go. So don't go anywhere. But before that, we want to thank some of our producers. What? That's right. I said producers, folks, because you may have noticed we don't have any advertisements on the show, which means no brainwashing, no affiliate codes, which means we don't need to be brand safe, and just generally no money-making opportunities whatsoever, which is just a real doozy. But it is all on purpose, folks. That's because we're on the value for value model. That's right. And for those who don't know, the value for value model is very simple. It just means we put out some value. We do it 3 times a week, almost 10 hours of content a week. And if you get any value out of what we do, you have the opportunity to put some value back in. And, it's a revolutionary concept. I know a lot of people, our whole lives, we've been brainwashed into thinking that we can just hand over some of our trust, some of our time to advertising companies to just tell us about their cool product. But the problem is we haven't read the user license agreement, and so we're unaware that advertising and PR are basically just commoditized brainwashing, all wrapped up in some esoteric, you got the Hegelian dialectic there, creating problems and selling us to the solutions to made up problems, as well as simply monetizing your trust and attention. And we just believe that shouldn't quite be the way it is. In fact, we believe that so much that we have completely chosen to ditch the advertising model because we trust that those who are getting value out of what we do will realize the value in that and put some value back in. And we're so grateful to all of our producers because that's exactly what they are. They're producers, just like the real world, baby. If you pay to have a piece of media produced, you are a producer. And there's all sorts of ways to do that. You can produce the show with your time, your talent, your treasure, all sorts of fun stuff. But there are those who have decided to produce the show financially, and we are so grateful. We couldn't do it without them, so we're going to thank them here on the show. The first way to do that is to head on over to patreon.com/CCNT for Canary Cry News Talk. That's patreon.com/CCNT. And and you can sign up there. There's actually a bunch of our bonus episodes over there. We haven't done one in a while, but there's like 30 bonus episodes, something like that. So we want to take a second and thank some of our Patreon producers. Are you ready, Gonzo?
Yes.
Okay.
Ready.
First of all, I want to thank our new producer, Lalo D.
Woo! Lalo.
Yeah. Lalo D. Cool.
I have to say, I hope this Lalo D is more reliable than the only other Lalo I've ever known was supposed to come fix our AC unit last summer.
And you don't think this is the Lalo who's supposed to fix your AC unit?
I hope not. I don't think so.
Maybe this is the apology.
This is the reparations.
Yeah.
We planned with him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll be there." Never showed up. 3 times.
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
3 times, Lalo. Well, thanks for the reparations, Lalo. Producer Lalo. And next we have producer Diane O. Thank you very much, producer Diane O, coming in on the PayPal there. Now, that was
PayPal,
Patreon.
you mean Patreon?
What did I say?
You said PayPal.
Oh, yeah. No, I meant Patreon. So that's it for the patreon.com/CCNT for Canary Cry News Talk. But, Gons, we had some producers come in on the other Patreon. That's patreon.com/Canary Cry Radio. For those who don't know, Canary Cry Radio is an interview-style show we've been doing since 2012. And they're still there. Go search Canary Cry Radio on your podcast player, and you're going to enjoy it. A lot of really great foundational interviews with scholars, authors, researchers, documentarians, all sorts of great people. That really, it gives a rounded Canary Cry worldview. You're gonna love it. Everything from UFOs and Bigfoot to the occult and politics. It's a good time. But we had a couple of producers come in over there. So I want to take a second and thank upgrading producer Kathy G.
Thank you, Kathy G.
Thank you very much, producer Kathy G. And a new producer Felicia D.
Thank you, Felicia D.
Thank you very much.
I like how they rhyme so far.
I know. And then to top it all off, we have a new producer Arwen. And that rounds it all out for our Patreon producers. Thank you guys so much for producing the show. Now, here's the thing, folks. A lot of people don't like Patreon. That's okay. We support you in your decisions. You can also become a producer by heading over to canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support.
That's right. canarycryradio.com/support has all sorts of ways to produce the show. You can read about the value for value model, but there's also opportunities to become a recurring producer if you want to produce the show on a monthly basis. We thank all of our recurring producers for doing that. But if commitment is not your thing, we also have one-time producerships in any amount that you like. Think of the freedom. And that's really what the value for value model is all about. Whether you've been listening or watching for 1 episode or 10 episodes or even 150 episodes since we've been doing this since the beginning of the pandemic, you just put a number on it. You pick whatever number is meaningful to you and become a producer, and we thank you so much. And so, Gons, who do we have coming in on the PayPal?
We would like to first thank all the recurring PayPal producers. Appreciate you. Again, we don't always name you every episode, but we see you. Thank you so much. First up, Tristan H.
Thank you very much, producer Tristan H. Coming in with the show number producership, $3.27.
Yep. And there's a note for I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. Romans 8:18.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, that is good to remember. There's a lot of negativity in the world out there, but that's partly why we border. I wouldn't call our show a comedy show. I don't think we're that funny, or at least I don't think I'm that funny.
Half of the show is a comedy show.
Yeah. The googly eyes is just a serious depiction of reality. But yeah, we try to keep it lighthearted because we want to make sure that, you know, despite all of the darkness out there, we keep the main thing, which is Jesus. And that's good news. It's not bad news. That's good news.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep, it's a good reminder about the glory which shall be revealed in us. So thank you for that, Tristan H. Next up, we have, and I did the full name here because I don't think that second part's a last name.
Okay.
Producer Nibbana Services.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
It's a new recurring producer, so we appreciate
Thank you very much.
that. And then next up, we have producer Shield Labs.
Thank you very much, producer Shield Labs.
Consistent. All these Tristan, too. Tristan H, consistent. Next up, James H.
Thank you very much, producer James H.
Right. Again, consistent.
And we're consistent in pointing out the consistency.
Yeah. Next up, we have producer Kimberly W.
Kimberly W., thank you very much for coming in with that pocket full of sevens.
That's right. And a note here, don't let darkness and anger win. When the dark thoughts creep in, turn them into intercession. Jesus wins.
Amen and amen.
I sense a theme with our producers today.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for that, producer Kimberly W. Next up, we have producer Deborah R.
Thank you very much, producer Deborah.
I believe, does she qualify for the executive producer of this episode?
No. I mean, yeah, we can give it to her. Okay. You know, I realized, anyways, we'll talk about it off air, but thank you very much, Deborah.
Okay. And last, for the producers of PayPal, or through PayPal, producer Benjamin S.
Thank you very much, producer Benjamin S.
And he wrote a note, sorry I'm late. You weren't late. You made it.
Well, came in during the show.
I know, but still, it worked.
But you did make it. You barely made it.
Yep.
Thank you very much, producer Benjamin.
You know that song?
Mm-hmm.
By Bob Marley. Anyway.
Ever heard of it?
Ever heard of Bob Marley?
Bob Marley?
William Marley? Okay.
William.
Other ways you can produce the show is with your cryptocurrencies. We don't have any today. Sell your Doge. No, I'm kidding. No, that's not financial advice.
Yeah, don't take his advice. Doge to the moon, baby.
Doge to the moon. It's been dropping today, but it's okay. That's you can support the show. You produce the show with your treasure, your time, your talent. And thank you for all the people supporting the show, or producing the show, excuse me, with your treasure. Other people have done it with their time. And that includes producer Jade Bouncerson and producer Christine. Both have been doing the timestamps, so thank you for that.
Thank you very much. And do we need to solicit more help for the timestampers?
Yeah, I think
probably,
so.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So producers Jade Bouncerson and Christine have been helping out so much by helping us get the timestamps. And it's very easy, especially if you catch the live shows. It's just a matter of helping us document when we change topics. And there's a whole system to it, so don't worry, you're not on your own. Jade Bouncerson and team, along with ourselves, have developed a very important aspect of what we do, but also, achievable, very achievable. And that is the timestamps. You might notice on the YouTube video, and as soon as podcasting 2.0 arrives, you can have the timestamps and chapters there, so you can skip around the show, click on topics and articles that you want to hear about directly without listening to the whole show over again or having to scrub through to find one thing. It's very useful, especially for like research purposes, as well as sharing sharing clips and things with people that if we go over a story or something, you want to share it with somebody. The timestamps make that possible, but we need help. We need a couple more people to come on and help out with the timestamps. I'm looking at you people who make it to every live stream as well. It's easy. It's also fun. It also helps out the show quite a bit. And if you want to get involved, help out the timestamp. Again, you don't have to do it every show. In fact, we once a week or even once a month would help out a lot. So go ahead and email jadebouncerson@gmail.com, spelled just how it sounds, JADEBOUNCERSON, jadebouncerson@gmail.com, and just say, hey, I want to help out with the timestamps. Get me involved. And you get to be a producer of the show, and we'll mention you on the show so everybody can be so thankful.
Yes.
jadebouncerson@gmail.com.
Perfect. Yeah, I think I saw somebody in the chat, it might have been Pneumatic, talk about, he mentioned silver finally moving up. So I checked the silver prices. It always happens to me where like people I hear or see like gold and silver finally moving. And then take a look and it's 0.28% up today. And I'm just so, I think I'm jaded.
It's a big deal for other markets,
I am
guys.
super jaded. I'm just, it went the other way last week with the crypto markets, and that was a whole nother experience. But I know it's weird how like traditional markets, it's like, oh, it moved. It's like 0.5%. And you're like, oh, sweet.
Yeah.
And crypto, that's like, a couple minutes.
Yeah, I was gonna say that could happen in 30 seconds.
Yeah. Okay, let's continue to thank people here. You can send in, or you can produce a show with your talent, along with your time. And you can do so by sending us jingles or music tracks that have thematic association with the show so that it's in line with what we talk about here. We'd appreciate the people that do send songs and stuff that they've done in the past, but there's copyright issues and sometimes it's not exactly on point with the theme of the show. So we encourage you to write things or find ISOs or create jingles for us. And we thank all of those who have done so in the past. The other way you can contribute to the show with your talent is by creating artwork.
One art, please.
And we have just a couple pieces of art here today. This first one, let's see, I have it out of order in the doc there, but I will do producer, Mr. Jag, the Hungry Hungarian. And he did one of his blue pen pieces here. And it's titled George Sorrows, like sorrow.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And it's a depiction of Soros with dark black. Well, they're not black. It's blue because it's a blue pen. Dark eyes. And it says Nephilim Hungarian. And his thought bubble. Do you like my new America? And he's in his Captain America outfit.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can't forget the Captain America. It's Captain America Soros here to save the day. Nephilim Hungarian. And then, of course, he has a little self-portrait down in the bottom right. The Hungry Hungarian. Just a normal-looking guy. 100% Nephilim-free.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
I like how the star on his shield for the Soros, Captain America George Soros, has like eyes and a smiley face. It's like it kind of looks like the Carl's Jr. star,
I don't think. Oh, on the shield, yeah.
On the shield,
that is funny.
You're talking about. You thought I was talking about his chest star.
Mm-hmm.
No, his shield star. Anyway, Thank you for that, producer Hungarian.
Mm-hmm.
Is Soros from Hungary?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, next up, we have one from producer Allie. And this one, man, she just keeps getting better. This one's pretty awesome. A lone-mounted clone soldier on his clone steed patrols the Russian front.
Yes, of course. This is reference to the Russian leadership talking about cloning the Scythian horseback warriors. And, just very coyly, didn't do what we did with Lucy. You know what we could do with that. And, of course...
I thought it was Dolly.
Yes, Dolly. Yes, thank you. And beautifully done, producer Allie. I mean, look, she's drewn horses for us before, but the horse detailing just keeps getting better and better. And this, it kind of looks like this. Yep. Blank eyeballs on this cloned Russian warrior.
I was gonna point that out. That's what gives it away.
The details.
The blank eyes. Yeah, it's always the details.
And it only takes one cloned horseback warrior to secure the Russian front. Thank you very much, producer Allie. Again, always a pleasure, and just keeps getting better and better, baby.
Yep. We got one more from Jade Vela, or Jay Vela. Sorry, not Jade. Jay Vela. Returns.
Thank you very much, Jay Vela. Happy to have you back. And what is this one called?
It is called Illegal Church Gatherings. I think it's in reference to what's going on in Canada and Canada.
And we've got a church building here, someone up against the wall with their arms spread out. We've got the faceless goons arresting everybody. Of course, we've got a little flippy drone flying in the air. Got some arms on that sucker. We got a couple spot the robot dogs. And yep, they're rounding up all the nice church people. Batons in the air, guns drawn. Unfortunately, not so much fiction as we once would have thought this was.
Yeah, this is more depicting past realities at this point. Well, maybe, I guess the robots are the only things that make it potentially near future, but the rest of it, I mean, even then, they're out there.
Gons, we know that the robots, but it's going to be, there's going to be protests against these human police officers, and they'll be chanting, bots, not cops, bots, not cops. And then the robot police force will roll out with their flawless logic and enslave us all.
Bots.
And flirt with our spouses.
Bots,
but we
not
do that.
Cops. I'm going to go ahead and write that one down because I think if leftist progressives ever start chanting bots, not cops, I think
then
we'd win an award. We should,
time traveler confirmed.
We should get some kind of plaque.
We can make ourselves a plaque, Which YouTube? Susan gave herself
an award.
An award. We can give ourselves an award.
I will give you credit because I remember, and maybe I don't know. Maybe at this point it was already a thing in social media and whatever. But I remember you saying or using the phrase woke or the word woke.
Yeah, long
time ago, and I think it was before it got all lefty. Lefty thing. So, hey, you're on it.
It was woke, awoke. I guess the term changed. This was before red pilled too. So we were talking about woke in what now somebody would call red pilled or out of the matrix or something. And then woke got taken.
Yeah, got taken, co-opted by the progressive left.
They always do that. They always do that.
Yeah, hijacked it.
Right.
Well, actually, it is a lot of the right-wing people that use that term now to describe the progressive left.
It has become quite a shibboleth, hasn't it?
A what?
A shibboleth?
Huh. A word I've never heard of.
Yeah, it's a term. I think it's like an ancient Hebrew term. It's like the way that you say a word gives away what group you belong to.
A custom, principle, or belief distinguishing a particular class or group of people, especially a long-standing one, regarded as outmoded or no longer important. Shibboleth.
Yep. So it's like that's how you can tell. That's how we could tell that one outlet we weren't sure about, National Review, was a right-leaning place, because if it's a left-leaning thing, they don't really say woke anymore.
No, they don't.
And before that, it was politically correct. Those who thought themselves politically correct, they stopped saying that's not politically correct. Now the only people who say politically correct are people who might be not necessary. Well, they're the people on the right, or the people who are, sort of maybe not anti-politically correct, but sort of disdain the term. That is kind of a shibboleth in itself.
Yeah, I'm going to start saying that and people will think I'm cursing.
Yeah.
Okay, just real quick. we have a list of dates for the meetups, and those are physical meetups, folks. This is not your virtual nonsense. Led by producer Ciara. Pacific Northwest, April 24th. Florida, May 22nd. SoCal, June 26th. Arizona, July 24th. And Missouri, September 11th.
Yeah,
and,
go do it.
Contact.
Very important to meet up with other human beings just like you. And we're so grateful to producer Ciara for taking the lead on putting together some of these meetups. If you're in any of those areas around those dates, you really should make an effort to make it out to these meetups. It's a very rewarding experience, so I'm told.
How do people contact Ciara?
You should email her using the electronic mail. Email her at Ciara Loren 93, Ciara Loren 93 at gmail.com. That's CIARALAUREN 93. We'll pump it in the chat there for somebody.
Perfect.
Yeah, do it. There's one coming up in a couple of days. Yeah, Saturday. Cool.
Yep,
Pacific Northwest. If you're an extant human being somewhere near the Pacific Northwest, Northern California, Oregon, Washington, consider making a trip out to this meetup. It's going to be great.
I have a good friend that lives up there. I might force him to go.
How would you force him? Sanctions?
I'll give him no strings attached. Money.
And then access to his Bitcoin accounts.
No.
I'll give you $1,000 for the public key to your Bitcoin account. Private key, rather.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll give you my public key.
I don't want your public key.
Buddy.
Keep that to yourself. All right. Anything else? I think we're ready to wake up.
I think that's it. Thank you, all the producers out there.
Let's do it. Wait. Okay. Thank you to all the producers for producing the show. We couldn't do it without you. And if you're out there and you're thinking you want to become a producer of the show, I highly recommend it. It's a great thing to do, not just because it helps us out, but it really is a rebellion against the global theology of advertising. Hey, look, if you're against communism, if you're against socialism, if you're against people not working and getting free money or anything like that, maybe you've got complicated ideas about how that should work, like Gons and I, obviously. It's very surprising that people would beg for advertisements. It's time we take some responsibility for the media that we take in on a regular basis. Gons and I both subscribe to the value for value model on shows that we like. It's just the future. If you don't like the fact you're being brainwashed, if you don't like the fact of the commoditization of your attention, or that big tech makes all of its money off of stealing your identity and then advertising it back to you, you should participate in the value for value model. Of course, we want you to do that because it's how we make our living. But also, I guarantee you will feel rewards, mental rewards, spiritual rewards when it comes to breaking away from that system. So again, you can do that by heading to patreon.com/CCNT or canarycryradio.com/support.
Yes, it's wake up time.
Hey, yo, wake up.
Okay.
A pandemic special.
That's right. It's a pandemic special, folks. And I want to bring something to your attention. We make a habit here of keeping an eye on the trends, the manipulation of language, the changing of definitions. It's always done to benefit the current power structure, which is heading in a certain direction, especially regarding vaccines. And the term anti-vaxxer, which is now, according to Merriam-Webster definition of anti-vaxxer, a person who opposes vaccination, or laws that mandate vaccination. So if you're an anti-vaxxer, it's not just that you're against vaccination, but you're also against laws that mandate vaccination. And this is a sneaky little thing they're doing here, folks. You might look at this and say, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But it's really that second part that is the key. A person who opposes laws that mandate vaccination. Because I'll say this, I know people who are pro-vax and who get their vax and who have gotten their vax, and they're okay with that, but they're not down with the government mandating vaccinations through the law. And that is a big thing here, because now you could be an innocent, kind-hearted person who just got their vax, just want to do their own thing and not force it on other people. But according to this definition, Merriam-Webster of anti-vaxxer, those people are no longer in the cool kid club. Now, if you're not a proponent of laws that mandate vaccination, even if you like vaccination for yourself, you are an anti-vaxxer.
Yeah, and I was trying to think, which is crazy. I was trying to think if there's any other label that does this. And, the reason why, you think about abortion, that topic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And people bring up like, oh, you're pro, there's pro-choice, and then there's, what's the other one? Pro-life. They both have the pro,
Yeah.
So it's different when you have the anti attached. It always comes off negative, for one. Yeah. But I was thinking, okay, so if you're pro-life, you're anti-choice.
Sure.
Right? You're anti-choice. You don't get the choice. It's murder, no matter what.
Yeah.
And I was trying to relate it here because definitionally there's, I guess linguistically, there's not like a consequential thing for being called pro-life other than you disagree with the law. In the same way you do disagree with the law here if you're an anti-vaxxer, but the title or definition or the phrase anti-vaxxer is much more triggering to people, I think, just in general. Yeah. Culturally, the definition is the first half here. A person who opposes vaccination.
Yeah, right. It's moving the goalposts.
Yeah.
Maybe you're people who get the vaccination for themselves because that's what they want to do. They want to protect themselves. That's fine. I got no problem with somebody who just wants to get it themselves.
Your body, your choice.
Your body,
sister.
Your choice. Go do your thing. If you want it, that's okay. It doesn't affect me. It's just when you want the law to mandate that somebody else gets it, then we're going to have a little bit of a disagreement. And that's the problem, because they don't want people who are vaccinated to get along at all with quote unquote anti-vaxxers. So this is moving the goalpost. The line you must cross to stay in good standing with the mainstream or the main narrative, the good versus evil, according to that side of the thing. Not only do you need to get the vaccination yourself, but you must desire to force everyone else to get it, or else you're an anti-vaxxer. I don't know. It's just sick. It's unfortunate. I really feel bad for those who got it because they just felt like that's what they needed to do, and that's okay, but they don't want to force anybody else to get it. They're lumped in. They're lumped in with the bad guys now. This is
very much the state playing God. This is like an authoritarian type of thing. If you flip it around, if you go to Matthew 7, the passage that freaks me out anyway. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. And then they protest, hey, we drove out demons, we prophesied in your name, we did all these things, and you don't know us.
Yeah.
Now just flip that to the other side here with the government playing God. That's basically what it is. Hey, we got the vax. What do you mean? Nope.
Sure.
You're an anti-vaxxer because you don't agree with the law.
Well, another... Yeah, sorry.
No, I was just going to say it's a very scary situation when you have governments and Merriam-Webster complicit with this type of defining of a phrase like anti-vaxxer.
Totally. And it goes to an interesting philosophical conversation about purity culture.
Yeah.
So, the normal context of purity culture is like, not having sex until you're married, right? And the conversation about purity culture, there's, a lot of people are mad at it, and other people are, of course, participating in it. But from the sort of philosophical side, purity culture doesn't have to just be about premarital adult relations. It's about being pure. And now I'm coming from the side of the the woke side, right?
Are you even woke?
Where purity in this instance is not just, do you have the vax? Oh, if you have the vax, you're pure. Okay, you're pure, you're good guy. You're in the good guy column. But if you don't have the vax, you're a bad guy. You're unpure, and we only allow the pure into this Macy's or whatever. But now the purity culture line has shifted, where, according to them, it's no longer about if you physically have the vax or not. It's, do you have the belief that we need to force this purity onto everybody? If you don't have that belief, you are unpure and you are shunned by the woke peeps. Otherwise, you are pure. Come with us and we shall force everyone else to be pure.
It's pretty dangerous in my opinion. I don't even know if the people at Merriam-Webster realized that they're treading in dangerous territory here with that definition.
Oh, you don't think so? I think it's all tied in. I think they have very powerful influences that pushes them to change these definitions, because they're always in service of the control mechanism at the time.
Of course. I'm just thinking. Again, do they realize what they're saying? Is kind of what I'm like. They should. They're Merriam-Webster since 1828. They in the business of defining words and phrases.
I think they hold such a powerful position in the brain control, the mind control of society. I think they know it. I think it's a control mechanism because, that's what it is. The definition of things, it holds power. The words hold power. And if you define the words, you hold the power of the words. You can make them mean whatever you want.
Oh, this is magic. This is some witchcraft right here.
Yeah, well, remember that writing down language was one of the first magical principles passed down by Thoth.
Thoth. Yeah, Thoth.
I've heard it recently as Thoth while I've been researching some other
doing
magical
your seances
things
with your neighbor.
I've been eavesdropping on some occult people so I can translate what's going on in the world, and that's what this is. Thoth handed down the written word as a form of magic, and I think that Merriam-Webster is wielding that magic.
I would have to agree with you there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
there
you can get the jab, but if you're not down with the law, you're an anti-vaxxer.
Not even down with the law. If you're not down to fascistically force an experimental vaccination onto unwilling citizens, then you're evil.
Yeah. Well, I guess we're just all evil in the eye of the state.
Yeah, we are. Just as I believe it was Stalin said, "Show me the man and I'll tell you his crime."
Oh, that's right. Yep. Good is evil, evil is good. And along those lines here, we have a story here from Pine Journal. Uh-oh, where'd it go? Pine Journal. Headline, Mayo Clinic teams with dozens of healthcare providers on pro-vaccination ad campaign. An ad campaign is another way to say
state-sponsored propaganda machinery.
There you
go. I don't know if it's state-sponsored per se, but it is propaganda. And it says here, saying, quote, "We can't achieve herd immunity without skeptics receiving the vaccine. Nationwide effort will seek out 39% of the public that is uncertain, sometimes dug in against the shots." And I'm just going to play it here straight off their website because it's worth noting here that's our shot2savelives.org. It's OUR shot, SHOT, the number 2, and then savelives.org. You know, it's kind of like, give it a shot, guys.
Yeah.
They're doing a double, is that
not
a double
throwing
entendre?
away my shot. No,
Yeah.
I'm not throwing away my shot.
And
that's famous pro-vaxxer Hamilton.
Cool. I didn't see any of his
just more inside jokes for people here.
People that actually pay attention to or watch those. Yeah, I missed. Didn't really watch that production. I know it was very popular. So on the thing here, it says, get the vaccine to save lives. The nation's top healthcare organizations agree COVID-19 vaccines are safe and effective. And here is the 51-second promo piece. Right? All right, here we go.
Get the vaccine to save lives. Not since World War II have all people been called to come together to protect humanity's future.
Is that true? Not since World War II, and they're showing like footage
That's not
of.
true.
They're showing
what
footage.
about climate change? We all need to come together to beat climate change.
Or I remember 9/11. That brought a lot of people together.
Yeah. No, well, you got to refer to World War II because of all the talk about the fascists and Nazis and Hitler. We just had Hitler as president. So referring to World War II is more...
We just had Hitler for president.
Literal Hitler, I was told, on the mainstream news. But no, yes, referring to World War II, he's not making a factual statement. It's an emotional statement because that's what everybody's primed for, is the World War II talk.
Right, and it's got like the black and white footage here, the raising of the flag at Iwo Jima, soldiers marching the streets, and little children saluting. I mean, it's the whole deal, deal.
Not since World War II have all people been called to come together to protect humanity's future. As healthcare providers, our calling is to protect people's health, to heal their bodies, to do no harm. If we do this now, we protect ourselves, our loved ones, and every other person around the globe.
What was that do no harm part?
I was going to point that out. Literally, this piece is telling you that if you don't get the vaccine, you're harming other people.
Yeah,
that's the premise.
As far as the science goes, I mean, we're just looking at the actual scientific papers and the actual scientific data. That's we'll say a strong statement.
Yes. Let me roll it back a little bit.
To heal their bodies, to do no harm.
Heal.
Yeah.
Vaccines do not heal anything.
Hold on, let me move it back just a little bit more.
As healthcare providers, our calling is to protect people's health, to heal their bodies, to do no harm.
Okay, so that's the call of the healthcare providers, right?
Yeah. So vaccines do not heal anything. Again, we're just breaking down propaganda. This is an advertisement, and like we always say, advertisements create problems and sell you the product to fix them. Vaccines do not heal anything. A scientific fact.
If we do this now, we protect ourselves, our loved ones, and every other person around the globe. COVID-19 vaccines are safe and effective.
Again.
To a certain number of people. I would even go so far to say to a majority of people.
Okay, you can say majority.
They're safe to a majority of people, or at least the majority aren't experiencing the skin melting rashes and the strokes and the blood clots and the herpes complex that has been coming out. Most women, most postmenopausal women do not start their periods again, but to some, those things happen.
Sorry. That reminded me of Bush's comment about OBGYNs. That was great.
Yeah, sorry. we do have people who are not technically anti-vax tune into the show. I will just to make it clear, we're just taking straight from the scientific numbers. You can still get COVID while you have the vaccine, and in fact, if you get vaccinated and then catch COVID, the numbers from the science show you are more likely to have a severe enough case to go to the hospital, which is opposite of what they were hoping to be the case.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's some contradictory things coming out of places like Israel. We'll get there.
Are safe and effective. We encourage you to take it. Everyone must make it their calling to overcome the pandemic, to protect the health of their family.
Okay.
I think that's okay. Hey, we all need to overcome the pandemic. Let's do it.
I just have a pet peeve here.
Okay.
Okay.
We shall overcome.
Yes, I know. They show a girl painting, and
make it their calling to over.
All right.
Real quick,
not that big of a deal.
Just because we have pro-vaccine people watching the show who think that you can't spread the vaccine when you get the vaccine. I'm sorry, can't spread COVID when you get the vaccine. That is scientifically untrue. That's why you're supposed to still wear a mask and still stay home. If you have the vaccine, you can still spread COVID.
Yeah.
Look it up.
Sorry, there was just a little thing. There's the scene that they're showing here during this part of the commercial is just like a kid painting. And when I don't know, it's a small thing. It's not a big deal. But usually when you show somebody painting, you want to show them actually painting. But there's it looks like they're just tracing the brush. I see the paint there, but okay, not a big deal. Forget it. I just the little details. Right. As a video production person, I would be like that clip right there isn't as impactful, but whatever. I'm not producing these things.
Overcome the pandemic to protect the health of their family, their friends, their neighbors. This is our shot to save lives.
This is our shot.
It's our shot.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, it seems
tame, but there's stuff in there.
It seems tame enough. I mean, you are mixing. I mean, the World War II thing is an obvious sort of an emotional trigger to open up the advertisement, which is a common practice. But what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Don't be Hitler. Get your vaccine.
Don't be Hitler.
I love the shot, the Iwo Jima shot.
Yeah.
So if you get your vaccine, you're just like the Iwo Jima soldiers raising the American flag.
I think that's what they're implying.
Uh-huh.
Or you're just like the soldiers marching down the street in unison.
Yeah.
People cheering, little children saluting you. You're a hero. You're a war hero.
It's patriotism. Only patriots get vaccines, Gons.
You're a war hero. And that actually ties into the next story here that we have. And this one is from the New York Times. And I think Shield Labs shared this with us, so thank you for that. Nation faces hand-to-hand combat to get reluctant Americans vaccinated.
Ooh, we're gonna get a little bit of Krav Maga on in here.
You want to? Are people gonna start rolling? A little roll. Is this how we're gonna roll? Like, hey, you want the vaccine? No, I don't want it. Well, let's talk about it. Let's fight over this.
For your lives. You want me to read this?
Yeah, go ahead.
New York Times headline: Nation faces hand-to-hand combat to get reluctant Americans vaccinated. Oh no! It really is hand-to-hand combat.
That's
with
what I'm
the
saying.
Other Americans. Oh,
I'm
this
picturing
is bad.
people
this
slap
is triggering.
fighting. I picture people like the slap fight meme.
Yeah. It's going to be like some jujitsu.
That's what I was saying. This is how we roll, right? Get it?
Get
roll
them in an
on the
arm
floor.
bar.
Yeah. There you
give them their shot. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Now that President Biden has met his goal to have the coronavirus vaccine available to all adults, health officials around the country are hitting what appears to be a soft ceiling. More than half of the nation's adults have gotten at least one dose, but it is going to take hard work and some creative changes in strategy to convince the rest. Okay. This must remember this. More than half of the nation's adults have gotten at least one dose. That number, half, of adults. Okay, but we're moving on. Save that number for another article that it will be related. Okay. So half of the nation's adults have gotten at least one dose, but it is going to take hard work and some creative changes in strategy to convince the rest. State health officials, business leaders, policymakers, and politicians are struggling to figure out how to tailor their messages and their tactics to persuade not only the vaccine hesitant, but also the indifferent.
Ooh, even harder.
The indifferent. They're the worst ones. The work will be labor intensive, and much of it may fall on private.
How is it labor intensive?
Jiu-jitsu is not an easy combat style, Gons.
Labor is like hauling 50-pound concrete slabs across like wooden planks.
It could be creative labor. It could be creative labor, all those hardworking PR professionals.
I guess those igloo cases with the cold vaccines in there, that's real labor intensive to carry that stuff around.
That's true. Also, those podcasters, that's real. That's labor.
Okay, go on.
Labor of love, tell you that much. The work will be labor intensive. Much of it may fall on private employers, and the risk is that it will take so long that the nation will not be able to reach herd immunity.
What?
The point at I know. The science of this is insane. It will take so long that we won't reach herd immunity, as if herd immunity has a time frame. But okay, the point at which the spread of the virus slows, in time to stop worrisome new variants from evading the vaccine. Quote, "If you think of this as a war," said Michael Carney. Should we think of this as a war?
Invisible enemy. Even Trump agreed that it was an invisible enemy.
We got to get hand to hand on this sucker. This senior vice president for emerging issues at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. That's a weird foundation to be hearing from. U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation? Why do we care what this guy thinks? Quote, "We're about to enter the hand-to-hand combat phase of the war." Dun, dun, dun.
Whoa, dude.
It's a phase. It's just a phase, Mom. In Louisiana, where 40% of the adult population has had one shot, even though all adults have been eligible since March, officials are delivering doses to commercial fishermen near the docks and running pop-up clinics at a Buddhist temple. Cool. Homeless shelters and truck stops. Civic groups are conducting door-to-door visits akin to get out the vote effort in neighborhoods with low vaccination rates. Ooh, that's a little too close to. That's a little weird. I don't like the door-to-door thing.
That's almost like the show us your papers.
Yeah, almost. Show us your we know where you live now. Show us your papers. In Alabama, fewer than 40% of adults have had at least one shot, and Dr. Scott Harris, the state health officer, is trying to reach out to rural white residents who demonstrate high rates of vaccine hesitancy. They are mistrustful of politicians and the news media, so Dr. Harris is asking doctors to record cell phone videos.
Snitch!
Oh, wait, hold on. Please email them to your patients saying, "This is why I think you ought to take the vaccine," he pleaded. Oh, wow. So doctors make cell phone videos and send them to the patients. That's some real. I can't remember the last time I thought a doctor cared that much about me. To actually send me a personalized video on my phone.
You know what? I'll tell you this. The last time, so my 4-year-old daughter had some issues with her kidneys when she was first born. So, we had a urologist give her a little surgery for the first few months of her life. And so we have to go for a checkup every few months. And the last time I went, this doctor is very hard to get a hold. Like he's super popular, one of the best urologists in Southern California, whatever. So he walks in, and he literally every time we go there, we have to wait like a half hour to an hour to see the doctor. And the doctor came in, and the nurses do the whole thing at the beginning. But then the doctor came in. He goes, "Do you have an iPhone?" And I said, "Yes." And he goes, "Here, I'm going to airdrop you something." And I said, "Okay." And then he airdropped me
a meme. Become ungovernable. Dogecoin to the moon.
Dogecoin to the moon. He would have been rich if he did that the last time I went. But no, he basically airdropped me some text files of like just all the points he would go over in the meeting. But instead of going over them with me, he just gave me the airdrop with the files. And he's like, everything good? Everything looks good? Great. He was out of there in like a minute and a half is how long we saw him.
Wow.
And I thought, whoa, is this like the new thing now where the doctor comes in and sees you, quote unquote, but he just airdrops you information that he would read to you or tell you?
He could have airdropped you through the door.
You know what? Actually, forgive my mistake here. It wasn't a Word document. It was like it was an audio recording of him telling you all the stuff. So it was like a voice recording of all the things. And he just picked and chose the stuff for me, for my daughter, and then boom, boom, there you have it. He's like, listen to those, good to go. Let me know if there's any problems. And he walked out.
Yeah,
It was like, wow.
He's really got the system down.
I mean, it was crazy. I was like, wow, okay, good to see you too, fun. Doc.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If a doctor sent me a personalized video telling me to get the vaccine, that would be the weirdest, most off-putting experience I think I would have ever had.
Hey, let me airdrop you something. It's a video of them. Hey, Basil, how you doing, buddy? Hope you're having a great day. This is just me reminding you that you should get the jab,
He stands in the room while I watch it.
You like what I did there? You like my jacket there?
My daughter taught me how to use the backward-facing camera. All right.
Okay,
let's
sorry,
keep
go
going.
ahead. Yeah.
Some companies are contemplating running their own vaccine clinics and trying to educate their workers about the benefits of getting protected against a virus that has already killed more than 560,000 Americans. Yeah, interesting how they pulled that data point and not protected against a virus that has less than a 1% of dying.
Did not kill many millions.
Did not kill over 1,000 times more than that. But as the economy swings into gear, they are reluctant to mandate vaccinations for their employees, fearing too many would seek work elsewhere. White House officials say they take it as a good sign that nearly 51% of American adults have turned out for the first dose, a major milestone, said Dr. Becara Chukare, the White House vaccinations coordinator, and an indication that, quote, there are tens of millions of people who are still eager to get vaccinated. But he is well aware there will come a time when Americans are no longer fighting for vaccine slots and when supply will exceed demand. And so I think we're there already.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're past that point, but go ahead.
I think I actually saw the numbers on that. I think we have officially supply has exceeded demand.
There's certain parts of the country, the counties, remember the Trump counties. In the last episode, we talked about how there's too much supply for over demand.
Right.
And all those counties have one thing in common. Trump.
Yeah. Orange man, bad. Notorious pro-vax.
Notorious Operation Warp Speed guy.
That's the guy who made the vaccine possible. Okay. In some parts of the country, that point may be here. In Mississippi, which opened vaccinations to all adults a month ago, 21% of the population is fully inoculated. In Alabama, the figure is just 19%. In Georgia, home of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, just 20% of the population is fully vaccinated. Quote, there are states where they feel they have hit a wall, said Mike Frazier, the executive director of the Association of State and Territorial Health Officials. Quote, the folks that wanted it have found it. The folks that don't want it or are not bothering to find it is not a sentence. The folks that won't want it are not bothering to find it. Okay. Yeah, no kidding. The fear is that even as some regions race towards broad immunity, others will harbor coronavirus infections that could transform into more dangerous and more contagious variants.
They're going to harbor it in their bodies. I will be the new variant.
You know where that term harbor is also used
Pearl Harbor?
often? No, harboring terrorism.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what we did in the Middle East. We invaded countries that harbored terrorists.
That's right.
You can find some Bush quotes on that, too.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Harbor coronavirus infections that could transform into more dangerous and more contagious variants, which would break through existing vaccinations. Mr. Frazier That's so funny. Breakthrough existing vaccinations. Pfizer has already said you're going to need to get a vaccination every 6 months to a year forever.
Yeah.
So this vaccine thing is already not going away. So they're counting on the coronavirus breaking through vaccinations. But no, they're putting the moral imperative of this of variants on people not getting vaccines because they don't want to have to get one every 6 months. Hey, look, if you got your vaccination, you're good. You don't need to force it on other people. Mr. Fraser said the soft ceilings in some states do not mean, quote, okay, everybody give up. It's what do we need to change? What do we need to pivot to? Pivot. The CDC, for instance, is working with states to identify primary care doctors in neighborhoods with a high social vulnerability index to get them vaccines. It's really going to be all about the ground game. Ooh, it's about the ground game. Dr. Trucare said, quote,
playing football now?
Yes, it's all about the ground game. Again, sort of another reference to martial arts, like UFC, your ground game. Yeah. It's going to be about planning at the local level. It's going to be about micro plans. Ooh, little tiny plans. It's going to be about county by county, zip code by zip code, census tract by census tract to make sure what are the strategies that work. Anywho, it goes on and on. It's a very long article. Did you have anything in this article you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, there was another point that Shield Labs, when he referenced the article here, Shirley Bloomfield, the chief executive of NTCA, the Rural Broadband Association, which represents small rural telecommunications companies, has been working with the White House on pushing her members to get the vaccine. Quote, one of my CEOs is paying everybody $100 to get the vaccine, she said.
Yeah.
But I think we have to be a little more creative because we're seeing that saturation point. $100.
Where everybody who wants $100 has $100.
I guess. I mean, $100. Again, the money's inflating, but you're asking people that are skeptical of this thing.
Yeah, it's not a very attractive thing. And in fact, actually, we refer to this exact thing in our next story. If we wanted to go to the next one.
Yeah, let's just go on because benefitnews.com headline, employers must tread lightly with workplace vaccine rules. And there's a chart here. Top concerns preventing employers from mandating COVID-19 vaccines. 79% said resistance from employees who refuse to get vaccinated. 68% said impact on company morale and culture. 64% said legal liability. And 47% administrative difficulties. And the article reads, with so much of the hope for businesses to return to in-person work hinging on widespread COVID-19 vaccination, it's not unreasonable that employers expect their workers to get their shots and get them as quickly as supplies allow. But employers also need to be careful about how much pressure they. I think there's a typo here. That's got to be a typo. But employers also need to be careful about how much pressure they put on employees to get vaccinated. As a threshold matter, employers can adopt a mandatory policy requiring employees to get their shots, but that can also trigger numerous exemptions under employment laws, like the Americans with Disabilities Act. Quote, ultimately, I think a lot of employers out there are finding that there's a lot of risk associated with a mandatory vaccine program in terms of litigation or legal risks, and you really need to be sure that you have proper procedures in place to weigh all of the different expectations that exist to a mandatory vaccination program. Diana Bardis, a partner with the law firm Mooney, Green, Sindon, Murphy, and Welch, said during a recent online presentation hosted by the International Foundation of Employee Benefit Plans. Bardis is seeing far more employers exploring strategies to incentivize employees to get their shots, though they need to tread carefully there too. For instance, the ADA bars employers from offering incentives to participate in wellness programs that are so great that they could be deemed coercive, which can be interpreted as stripping employees of their choice to opt out. Bardis suggests that employers apply those same rules to COVID vaccines. So, for instance, employers might offer a day of paid time off or a $100 gift card for employees who get their shot, but not, say, a car. Quote, "That's why we've been seeing pretty low stakes incentives," Bardis said. Quote, "We've seen things that are relatively small, but enough to be encouraging, but not big enough to take away someone's choice about whether or not vaccine is in their best interest. Employers who do want to set up a mandatory vaccine program need to be aware of the potential disability exemptions that employees could claim in pursuit of an accommodation. At the point an employee makes such a request, the employer must first determine whether allowing a non-vaccinated worker to remain on the job would pose a direct threat to the workplace. If not, then the employer must grant the accommodation. But if the employer determines that there's a threat, then they must next evaluate how they can make an accommodation without imperiling other workers, such as permitting the employee who doesn't want the vaccine to work remotely or maintaining masking and social distancing rules in the workplace." Quote, "If there's no direct threat to your workplace, then you don't require a vaccination. If there is a direct threat but a reasonable accommodation is available, then you need to make that accommodation," Bardis said. "If there's a direct threat and no possible accommodation that can be made, only then is it lawful to exclude that employee from the workplace." So there's a lot of hurdles to jump for these employers to make sure
they're
not
basically saying it may not be feasible. I mean, again, you can offer a little something, but if nobody wants the $100 gift card, there's not much more you can do.
Right. And then the accommodations, if you can social distance or you can work remote, then those have to be offered first before they apply any kind of mandatory vaccination program or whatever.
Yeah, this sounds like a big pain in the butt
these companies,
a lot of companies.
Yeah, these companies are going to, I would imagine most companies are just going to be like, whatever. Yeah. If you got it, great. If you don't, hey. So this was always going to be a sticking point with the vaccine issue when it comes to opening things back up. How are they going to impose this, and what kind of legal ramifications are there for certain companies that overstep their boundaries? And this is important for not just the employers to know, but the employees. If you're employed by a company, you should know your rights too, and you should approach the leadership of whatever company you work for with this type of knowledge at hand, because then you can, determine whether they're being, they're breaking the law or not, basically.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the beautiful things about capitalism, Gons.
Is it?
Yeah, it all comes down to the money. If it's going to cost more money for these companies to force a vaccine, they're not going to do it.
That could be why.
Looks like it's going to.
This could be why, we've been talking about the Great Reset and the stakeholders capitalism and the new dashboard to determine all this kind of stuff.
Exactly.
That could be because they need to get around stuff like this. Mm-hmm. If there's a dashboard of like, we're talking about world safety from the COVID thing, and our metrics tell us that this company is the most safe because everyone at this company is vaccinated or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they can create different point systems for certain benefits.
Yeah, stakeholder capitalism.
Capitalism, yeah.
It's going to be great.
Moving on here. There's more. We just got to fly through some of these. But next up, we have Fox News.
Yeah. Now, I want to take this one a little piece by piece here, Gons. Once you give us this, I want to see what this says, and then I've got a response to it.
Okay, foxnews.com. Herpes infection possibly linked to COVID-19 vaccine, study says.
Okay, so that's a pretty generalized headline. Mm-hmm. Herpes infection possibly linked to COVID-19 vaccine, study says. So there's a study. Yep. Okay, let's go.
Herpes infections may be a side effect of the COVID-19 vaccine, experts have revealed. Scientists in Israel identified 6 cases in a new study of patients developing a skin rash known as herpes zoster. after receiving the Pfizer vaccine, according to a study in the Rheumatology Journal. Anything yet?
Yeah, just go all the way through.
Okay. Herpes zoster starts off as a small, itchy skin rash, but if left untreated, it could cause nerve damage and pain, the Jerusalem Post reported. This can include a prolonged burning sensation on the skin even after the rash disappears. Researchers from the Tel Aviv Sorovsky Medical Center and Carmel Medical Center in Haifa found those with autoimmune inflammatory rheumatic diseases had higher risk of developing the herpes infection. Out of 491 patients, 6 people, or 1.2%, experienced the infection, researchers said. The 6 patients all have mild cases of autoimmune inflammatory rheumatic diseases and were young, though the infection is generally more common in those over the age of 50. Quote, "That is why we reported it," Dr. Victoria Führer. She's the Führer.
Führer. Wow, that's funny.
The lead author told the outlet. 5 of them developed herpes zoster after the first dose, and the 6th got it after the second. But it's unclear whether the vaccine caused the cases of herpes zoster. Quote, "We cannot say the vaccine is the cause at this point," Führer told the outlet. "We can say it might be a trigger in some patients." Führer said further research is necessary, and one implication could be that patients with autoimmune inflammatory rheumatic diseases be encouraged to get vaccinated against herpes zoster before getting their COVID-19 shot. Oh,
double vax.
Double up.
Double vax.
Quote, "We should not scare people," she told the Jerusalem Post. "The overall message is to get vaccinated. It is just important to be aware." End quote.
Yeah. Okay. That wasn't so bad. I thought coming from Fox, I thought it was going to be a lot more intense. So yes, all of that seems to be factual. The one thing they did leave out, which I will say, is, I don't know, what just wasn't the best choice on their part, is that herpes zoster or zoster is, it's shingles. It's shingles.
Oh, so...
It's not herpes. It's not, herpes. It's just one of those herpes classified diseases. And that's what I was trying to wait and see if they were going to make that clear, because this is a very, dare I say, inflammatory article. Thank you. Medical comedy. What was I saying? I got so
you got so wrapped up in your own joke.
Wrapped up in my own joke. Yeah. Okay. So this is shingles, and I was gonna see if they mentioned that in this Fox News article, which they didn't, which I don't think surprises anybody. But they got all the rest of it right, and they did quote the Jerusalem Post correctly.
Yeah.
Where they,
I think the headline, the reason for this, number one, for clicks, obviously, because I think in most people's minds, when you hear the word herpes, they think genital herpes.
Yeah, the big stigma.
Yeah.
Stigmatic one.
Right. So you get an STD if you get the vaccine, is what, gets conjured in the minds of people when they.
Yeah. So it was about 1.2% of people in the study got shingles, and they did already have autoimmune inflammatory rheumatic diseases, like the Fox article said. Yeah, okay. They did okay with that. They just forgot to mention that it was shingles, and they kind of just leave room for your imagination. Unless somebody knows what herpes zoster is already, they might be thinking it's the scary one.
Right.
Not that shingles isn't scary. It's actually pretty horrible.
Yeah, it can be pretty bad. I've known some people that got the shingles, and it can wipe you out.
Which now this doesn't come as a surprise at all, because, not just this shingles thing, the rash and skin responses that, oh my gosh, the reports just keep coming out every day. This result is happening a lot.
Right.
You got people's skin melting off. You've got these crazy rashes, and they're all sort of autoimmune related. Which again, coming from a vax scientist or someone, they would say is not surprising. Vaccines can sort of exacerbate autoimmune things because you are activating your body's immune system, and if you have an autoimmune problem, that's actually not a great thing for you and your skin. But there you go, 1.2%. All right, next up we have, let's see. Here's a little report from India.
Mm-hmm.
IndianExpress.com, government bans supply of oxygen to industries to meet demand from COVID-19 vaccine patients. The center on Sunday banned the supply of oxygen for industrial purposes, except in 9 specified industries in view of shortage of the essential public health commodity in several states amid a spike in COVID-19 infections. The decision will come into effect April 22nd. In a communication to all states, Union Home Secretary Ajay Bala said that in a view of the rapid rise in COVID-19 cases, the resultant rapid demand for medical oxygen, particularly in high-burden states of Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Delhi, and Uttar Pradesh, the central government constituted Empowered Group 2 has reviewed the supply of oxygen for industrial use in order to divert the same to meet the rising demand for medical oxygen in the country and save precious lives. Accordingly, the EG2 has recommended prohibiting the supply of oxygen for industrial purposes by manufacturers and suppliers from April 22nd till further orders, with exceptions of 9 specified industries. The recommendation of the EG2 has been accepted by the government, the Home Secretary said in a letter. And then they have the quote here. Yeah, okay. I therefore urge you to issue necessary instructions to all authorities concerned in your state to ensure compliance to the decision of the EG2 and make necessary measures to prohibit supply oxygen for industrial purposes except those exempted 9 industries. It will help in augmenting supply for medical oxygen in the country and in saving precious lives, the letter addressed to the chief secretaries of all states and union territories said. I wish I knew what these industries were.
I was hoping they would mention it. They don't, huh?
No, they don't mention it. Yeah, that is weird. I mean, I guess oxygen, all sorts of gases are used in all sorts of industries, manufacturing things. One interesting detail, and I'm sure it's one of the exempted 9 industries, is a lot of the ingredients for drugs, for prescription drugs and over-the-counter drugs, are made in India. It's actually a huge problem. Their water supply and their oceans off of India are just filled with prescription drugs because of the manufacturing runoff. They found the fish were all doped up on prescription drugs because of just the runoff. But I'm expecting that oxygen is needed in a lot of those drug manufacturing things. Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah. It's always just interesting, though, when the headline says, government bans supply of oxygen. It's like, whoa, man, let the people breathe.
Yeah, it was funny.
So I think this is a story that you were referencing earlier. And this is from the BusinessInsider.com. After fully vaccinating a majority of its population, Israel no longer requires people to wear masks outdoors.
Oh, it's almost like they're approaching herd immunity.
Oh, yeah. With more than half of its population fully vaccinated, Israel on Sunday dropped its outdoor mask mandate. Wasn't the percentage 51% of Americans?
That's exactly right. 51% of American adults have been vaccinated, and 51% of Israel, or 50% of Israel. What was the number?
More than half.
More than half. Okay, so yeah, more than half in Israel. They're doing okay. Why is nobody complaining about them?
Well, I mean, you got to consider population density. You know, it's only 9 million population in Israel, 330 million in the U.S.
Half is half, Gons.
Half is half.
Half is half.
Masks are still required in indoor public spaces like stores, malls, and places of worship. But the change was a stark signal of the country's progress against the pandemic, powered by one of the earliest and fastest vaccine rollouts. The outdoor masking rule was in place continuously for about a year. Hasn't the science shown that this thing doesn't spread outside? Wasn't there like one case in China that this spread outside?
Yeah, no, the numbers, the actual numbers, I don't have those ones right in front of me. But the numbers for outdoor spread, open air spread are negligible.
Yeah. So it doesn't make sense that they had it in the first place.
No, but, propaganda.
Yeah. I don't even think it's worth reading the rest of this because it's just BB being amazing because he's so amazing. Remember there's the other story of BB calling the guys at Pfizer like 30-something times to try to get the vaccine.
Oh, yeah. He hounded those guys to get the vaccines for Israel. Apparently it worked.
It did work. And then he made that commercial calling people, the anti-vaxxers, like crazy and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Always fun, BB.
Clowns. He called them clowns.
That's right. Yeah. Clowns.
Yeah.
There you go. Good for you, Israel, but you're all jabbed, so
yeah.
I guess
the funny thing is that Israel has just as much vaccine hesitance as anywhere else, but you don't hear about it. You only hear about the fact that they're doing so good. We have the same amount of vaccinated adults as they do, and yet they're doing so much better than us.
Same percentage for sure. And I think it was Israel where their protesters were rolling giant coronavirus spiked protein balls down the street.
They got protests. They got anti-vaxxers just like the rest of us.
Yeah, but they're just hush hush.
That is part of it. I mean, they don't talk about the anti-vaxxing, or at least it doesn't make it to us as often as American anti-vaxxing. It's kind of like they're trying to ignore the Israeli anti-vaxxers, so none of those American anti-vaxxers get any support.
You know what that's like? That is like the United States early on, where the U.S. had within the walls, I'll just use that loosely, the confines of the U.S., we had our particular issues that we were all facing, but the world outside, the foreign nations, got a whole nother set of propaganda about the U.S.
Yeah.
So it's very similar. It's a very familiar tactic. Some of it changed after the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act in 2013 with Obama.
And just for those who need a reminder, the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act is basically legal propaganda in the U.S.
Yeah,
but
foreign propaganda.
It's specifically regards news traveling internationally.
Right.
So I don't know how much further to go into it, but yes, they use international news against countries against each other all the time to say, oh, see, these guys are doing so good. Why don't you be like them? But on the other side, it's like, oh, those guys are doing better than you.
Yeah.
Why don't you be like them?
It's playing both sides, the right hand, left hand.
Mm-hmm.
And this one's an old article. I just included it because I just thought it was interesting that this is about a month old. This is the New York Times. COVID's partisan errors. Republicans tend to underestimate COVID risks, and Democrats tend to exaggerate them. I was very surprised that they would say anything negative about the Democrats, but
No Agenda listeners saw or heard what's his name?
I don't know.
The Democrat man. He had the show.
Oh, Bill Maher?
Bill Maher, yes. Yeah, he'd made a big hubbub about this.
He did.
But continue.
Yep. Americans on the right half of the political spectrum have tended to underplay the risk of COVID-19. They have been less willing to wear masks or avoid indoor gatherings and have been more hesitant to get vaccinated. These attitudes are part of a larger pattern in which American conservatives are often skeptical of public health warnings from scientists on climate change, air pollution, gun violence, school lunches, and more.
School lunches. Climate change, gun violence, school lunches.
Climate change, air pollution, gun violence, school lunches.
Yeah, what are conservatives skeptical about school lunches?
Don't know.
I might be skeptical when they categorized pizza as a vegetable.
It's a Politico story from 2014. First Lady Michelle Obama and school lunch ladies used to be the same team, but now they're locked in a political war against each other. Okay.
Oh, simpler times. Simpler times.
Okay. They just needed one more thing to throw Republicans under the bus in this article. In the case of COVID, Republican politicians and media figures have encouraged risky behavior by making false statements about the virus. To many liberals, COVID has become another example of the modern Republican Party's hostility to facts and evidence.
Of course.
And that charge certainly has some truth to it. Hyperlinked has some truth to it. Yet, the particular story with COVID is far more complicated. Is it complicated, New York Times, or is it just not the narrative that you guys have been spinning for years, or at least
it's probably pretty complicated?
Because conservatives aren't the only ones misinterpreting scientific evidence in systematic ways. Americans on the left half of the political spectrum are doing it too.
Ooh, got him. Get him.
No.
Get him, Politico.
That's a central finding from a survey of 35,000 Americans by Gallup and Franklin Templeton. It finds that both liberals and conservatives suffer from misperceptions about the pandemic.
Misperceptions.
In opposite directions. Quote, Republicans consistently underestimate risks, while Democrats consistently overestimate them. Jonathan Rothwell, Gallup's principal economist, and Sonal Desai, a Franklin Templeton executive, write. The mistakes.
This is good. Keep going. Let's get some of the deets.
Yeah, more than 1/3 of Republican voters, for example, said that people without COVID symptoms could not spread the virus. Similar shares said that COVID was killing fewer people than either the seasonal flu or vehicle crashes. All of those beliefs are wrong, and badly so. Asymptomatic spread is a major source of transmission.
Not according to an 8 million person study from China and another study out of the University of Florida. But okay.
But this hyperlink story to another New York Times article says that it is.
Okay.
And COVID has killed about 15 times more Americans than either the flu or vehicle crashes do in a typical year.
But also just about the exact same as tobacco deaths.
Yeah.
So... Okay.
Democrats, on the other hand, are more likely to exaggerate the severity of COVID. Okay. When asked how often COVID patients had to be hospitalized, a very large share of Democratic voters said that at least 20% did. The actual hospitalization rate is about 1%.
1%. That's 7 times lower than the hospitalization rate for the vaccinated people who get COVID.
And it has a little chart here, and it says, what are the chances somebody with COVID must be hospitalized? And the correct answer is 1 to 5%. And the 20% of independents got it right. 26% of Republicans got it right, but only 10% of Democrats got it right. And 41% of Democrats answered 50% and up, which means almost half Democratic voters basically were way off on that one. Democrats.
Well, and to be fair, the highest amount in Democrat, Republican, and Independent was in that 50% and up category, which goes to show the information being fed to everybody by the media.
Yeah.
Everybody.
This is the media's fault. This isn't science or politics.
Well, and that's the hilarious part. Exactly. They're trying to put these numbers on political affiliation when in fact they're just a result of how the media covered it. The majority of people in Democrat, Republican, and Independent and other thought 50% of people who caught COVID went to the hospital. And it's simply not the fact. In fact, it's the worst answer. It's furthest. It's the furthest wrong answer from the truth. Yeah. And the one common denominator is the American media.
Yeah. Goes on here, Democrats are also more likely to exaggerate COVID's toll on young people and to believe that children account for a meaningful share of deaths. In reality, Americans under 18 account for only 0.04% of COVID deaths. It's true that some of these misperceptions reflect the fact that most people are not epidemiologists and that estimating medical statistics is difficult. Still, the errors do have a connection in real-world behavior, Rothwell told me. Republicans' underestimation of COVID risks helps explain their resistance to wearing masks, even though doing so could save their own life or that of a family member. And Democrats' overestimation of risks explains why so many have accepted school closures, despite the damage being done to children, with the hyperlink to, where is this to? Another New York Times article. In lost learning, lost social connections, and in the case of poorer children, missed meals. Oh man, they're really digging into the Democrats there.
Yeah.
The states with the highest share of closed schools are all blue states. This is true. California, Oregon, Maryland, New Mexico, Hawaii, Nevada, Massachusetts, and New Jersey. Quote, I think in many ways it's based on the fact that these voters are misinformed about the risks to young people, and they're misinformed about the risks generally, Rothwell said. Information can help. The reasons for these ideological biases aren't completely clear.
Yeah, shocking that the media can't recognize that they themselves are the reason for the misinformation.
But they are not shocking. Conservatives tend to be more hostile to behavior restrictions than to scientific research, and liberals sometimes overreact to social problems.
Oh, notice the wording on that. Conservatives are hostile, and liberals just overreact. It's just an overreaction. Again, it's kind of like an unhealthy relationship. You know, you can imagine like a relationship therapist.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, tell me what you think is wrong. Well, he's hostile. Sometimes I overreact. I'm just overreacting, but he's hostile to science.
Yeah, meanwhile, they're behind closed doors. They're the ones, feeding all the misinfo to everybody.
Yeah.
COVID, of course, represents a real crisis, one that has already killed more than 500,000 Americans and continues to kill more than 1,000 per day. As in the case of many crises, underreaction has been a bigger problem with COVID. But it has not been the only problem. Perhaps the best news from the Gallup survey was that some people were willing to revisit their beliefs when given new information. Republicans took the pandemic more seriously after being told that the number of new cases was rising. And Democrats were more favorable to in-person schooling after hearing that the American Academy of Pediatrics supports it. That's
Imagine
very encouraging.
Folks. Just looking at the actual science for once will make you just slightly more reasonable. That's why we show the numbers here on the show.
Yep. That's very encouraging, Rothwell told me. It's discouraging that people didn't already know it.
Yeah. It sounds like Rothwell is as discouraged with the mainstream media as any, reasonably thinking person should be.
Yeah, this article fails to mention that this Rothwell guy excoriated the journalist who interviewed him for partaking in this issue of people being underinformed. I just made that part up, but I can imagine him being like, "It's all your fault." Just cut that part, edit that part out. I don't know what the problem is.
It's
all
you.
Right.
You're the problem.
You're the problem. We'll just edit that out. All right, one quick story about witchcraft. Then we got to get out of here. This is a long episode. This real quick, short episode that you were talking about is just stretching out.
So quick.
Witchcraft.
Oh my gosh, this is like the longest episode.
I told you. When you said it's a short, it's going to be short. I'm
Okay,
like,
first of all, I said that before we started.
I know, and even then, in the back of my mind, I was thinking, no, it's probably not.
You didn't. You did not say out loud.
I didn't say anything out loud.
You are wrong. This will be the longest recorded podcast in history.
Oh no, we know that's
don't even
not
get
us.
into it. Don't even get. It is us, but it's not this episode. Check out episode 100 of Canary Cry Radio. It's like 8 hours long. Literally 8 hours long.
It was close to 8 hours. And you know what? We went for a Guinness World Record on that episode of like most people interviewed on a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And the Guinness people rejected it. I wonder if we revisit that, if they're like,
do you remember the reason? I was just thinking about this the other day. Do you remember the reason why they rejected our claim?
I think they just didn't think it was a viable record or something. And it was before podcasts.
They said there'd be no way to check that factually. It's like,
listen to the podcast.
There is a way to objectively check that.
Yeah,
you listen to the file we sent you, and then if somebody else sends you a file of more, then there you go, facts. But no, they just didn't want to give us a world record. We may hold the world record. We had somewhere around 30 individual interviews on that podcast.
Yeah, that was a crazy episode to make.
I think it's still historical, but
I think so too.
Maybe we should resend it in.
We should. I'm sure maybe somebody
podcasting wasn't a big thing back then.
That's what I was going to say. People, I mean, I'm sure they were like, podcasting, whatever. But now it's taken over the world. So
I'm pretty sure the Guinness Book of World Records has their own podcast now. So maybe they'll be more open.
They'll try to break it themselves.
We should resend that in. That would be a shame.
December 31st, 2015 is when we published the episode. And let me see here. Let me try to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. 27 guests.
Yeah, 27 guests, 1 8-hour podcast. That's got to be some sort of world record. Kimmy Kimco on Twitch said, send it in and remind them you're Asian. I think that's the key. I think we figured it out.
Like that, the longest. What if that was the thing that gave it to us? You know, the longest pod, most interviewed by an Asian.
Yeah, by an Asian. Yeah, there we go. We just got to be more specific. Crystal on YouTube is asking, is it still live? Yes.
I just dropped the link in the chat there. So
okay, good. Yes, remember, this is Canary Cry Radio, which is our interview style show. We did that years ago. It's still on our RSS feed. It's not on YouTube, but use a podcast player. What episode? Oh, it's episode number 100 of Canary Cry Radio.
100. We worked on that thing for like 3 months.
Yep. Took forever.
I'm surprised we got it done, to be honest with you.
People love it.
Dedication.
It's a
a lot of dedication. Anyway.
It should be in the Book of World Records.
It should.
I know.
Okay, real quick here.
Take us out here.
All right.
This girl must be practicing witchcraft.
South Florida, NBCMiami.com. Police search for woman promising witchcraft services. $100,000 stolen from victims in Naples. There's a sketch of this woman. The Naples Police Department is looking for a mysterious woman advertised around Golden Gate and East Naples, promising to solve relationship problems using witchcraft services, according to police. The woman reportedly swindled more than $100,000 combined from at least 10 victims in an elaborate and disturbing scheme, the Naples Police Department reported. According to the police, ads were found in free Hispanic newspapers, radio ads, and local Hispanic radio stations, and laundromats and stores in the Garden Gate and East Naples area. She really had a campaign going here. The media ads were published in December 2020, leading to the in-person scam beginning mid-January 2021. Very elaborate. Victims described the subject as possibly Hispanic or Eastern European, speaking Spanish with an unknown accent or dialect, approximately 5'2", medium built with blonde hair and dark roots and light brown eyes. Anyone with information? Let them know. But
they don't tell us about the scheme?
They kind of told us. So
they said she ran ads.
That she ran ads, and then there was an in-person thing where the scam began. So maybe what it was like she got some people to come in, pay the money, do a consultation, and then hey, next time we'll really get into the witchcraft, and then she just took off.
She was focusing on the Hispanic demographic. That must have been a lot of people. Yes. I like the sketches. You look at the side-by-side sketches. You focus in on, individual pieces of the face, because that's how, the person describes the person to the sketcher, and then they go piece by piece. They look nothing alike. The only thing that's the same is the hairline.
The hairline, yeah.
It's just like... She has a very distinctive hairline. Everything else, it's a woman. Looks like a woman.
It's AOC.
It's a woman wearing a necklace. The top one does look a little bit like AOC. All right. Okay, well, there you go.
The witchcraft wasn't the witchcraft. It was stealing money. That was the witchcraft part.
Oh, yeah. You come to me and I'll make your money disappear. Yeah, I want to know. Witchcraft. Was it like tarot cards, or was it like a... what was it? Well, witchcraft, though. That's very specific.
Yeah, so I'm
I'll
guessing
cast spells for you.
Yeah, spells or potions or something like that. It's a relationship. So, it's your typical have your man drink this and he'll fall in love with you or something like that,
there's a little store down the road from me that is like a Hispanic witchcraft store.
Oh, don't dox yourself.
It's like yes, yeah.
Now everyone's gonna look up
find the one Hispanic witchcraft store, and you'll find me. What is it? It's like Santeria, I think, is the thing where it's kind of like Catholicism mixed with witchcraft.
Yeah, I don't practice Santeria. I ain't got no crystal ball.
Oh, jeez. And
I had $1 million, but I spent it all.
Little herbs and candles and things. There you go. People are into that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Done?
Done. It's a very anticlimactic ending to a very long episode.
We are approaching 4 hours
on this.
I know,
we got to get out of here. Wife's going to be like, what were you doing?
Yeah, my cats are going to be like, meow, 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 meow. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Remember, we'll be back on Friday, April 23rd. April 23rd on Friday. Put it on your calendar. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, baby.
Like, subscribe, bell button, all. Like, subscribe, bell button, all.
That's right. And remember, you can become a producer of that episode. It'll be episode 328, if you're wondering. And remember, the show does not go on without the producers. Just like any real piece of media, somebody's got to produce it, and that could be you. Do that by going to patreon.com/CCNT, or go ahead and hit up canarycryradio.com/support.
Canary Cry Radio. .com/support.
That's right. Remember, it's not just supporting your best buddies, Basil and Gons, and the work that they've been called to do, but it's also a revolution to your own spirit to disconnect from the global theology of advertising that has so got the world in its grasp.
Did you just say they? Did you just third person us? You're like... You said the work they've been called to do.
Did I?
Yeah.
Did I say that?
You did third person ourselves.
Yeah, well, I'm an AI. I'm the outro AI, the automated outro Basil, so the real human Basil doesn't have to remember all this stuff and say it at the end of every show. We've automated the show.
Okay.
Bleep blorp, everybody. Bleep bleep blorp. Become a producer of the show. Please do. You'll feel good about it, and you'll have an opportunity to express your rebellion against the current world system. You can do that. But I do want to thank the producers of this episode, 327. Thank you to our financial producers, Lalo, Diane. Gons, you're moving it around. Lalo, Diane, Arwen, Felicia, Kathy G. Thank you to Tristan, Nibbana, Shield Labs, James H., Kimberly W., Deborah R., and Benjamin S. We couldn't do the show without our producers, so everybody in the chat, remember to thank a producer today. And if you're not in the chat, thank God for your producers today.
We're
and
approaching episode 333, by the way. We're very close to it.
Oh, we need to start telling people that now.
Yeah.
Because, episode 333 producership, that's like, that's the golden calf of producership.
What are you doing?
You know what? I'm just being honest. We make it fun. We make it funny. But don't worry. No salvation comes from producing the show. What was that?
Sorry,
Okay.
I'm looking up an old clip here.
We're losing it, folks. Thank you to all of our producers. Thank you to our artists, of course, and to Jade Bouncerson and Christine for the timestamps. Remember, folks, if you're out there, you want to help the show out, get in on the process, get in the club. Make sure to send an email to jadebouncerson@gmail.com. Become part of the team. Help out with the timestamps there. Let's see. I did that. Thank you. But there's other ways to produce the show. Remember, you can create art. You can create jingles. You can create music. Do all those things. Put it in a theme of the show. Make it show related, of course, and send it on over to canarycryradio@gmail.com or canarycryradio@protonmail.com if you're a hacker. Do that. We love all the creative input from those producers. And hey, look, if that's not your thing, you can help out the show in a ton of different ways. You can leave ratings and reviews. That's very important. I'm looking at the list now. No new ratings and reviews since last Friday. So if you want to get on the show, help produce the show, leave a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. That's right. Go to Apple Podcasts on your iPhone, search out Canary Cry News Talk, leave a rating and a review. It's very important. It convinces the algorithms, the robots, to share the show with people who may not have heard of it before. And we read them here on the show. So you can tell us what you think of the show, and we read them. So do that. Thank you very much. You can also share the show. Share it on your social media. Share it with your friends. Do all that kind of stuff. You might think, oh, I don't have a lot of followers. That's not going to help. You know what? It's not just about the followers. It's about those algos, folks. Got to get the algorithms going. So if you got a Twitter account, a Facebook, whatever, hit the share button, share this episode, or if not this episode, go find a different episode that you like. Share that one. And last but not least, just share it. Word of mouth is the perfect way to share a show like this. If you got friends and family who are starting to wake up to the fact that the world is not what it seems, you can go ahead and hook them up with the show. It's a friendly show. We're no Alex Jones. We're not going to freak people out on the first go around. But it's a good. Oh my gosh, I'm losing it. Thank you. Share it with your friends. We like to call it rattling cages. And if you need any more instructions, here's what you do. You walk right up to them, you grab them by the cage, and then you shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
Just ask Noah. Bearded Cyclist 67 in the YouTube chat said Allie, the police sketch artist. Allie might have a career in police sketch artistry.
Yeah.
There you go, Allie. More life suggestions from your buddies. Okay, hold on. I had something to say.
Okay.
I had something to say, and I forget what it was. Nuts. I got distracted by looking at the chat.
Good job.
Okay. Well, do you have any last words, Gonzo?
Only the greatest Bush clip ever.
Ooh.
Too many good docs are getting out of business. Too many OBGYNs aren't able to practice their love with women all across this country.
Oh, was a different time.
Different time.
It was a different time. Well, I thought that was going to remind me of what I needed to talk about at the end here. I guess it wasn't that important. All right, everybody. Remember to be back here on Friday, April 23rd. Yeah. Thanks for listening to this episode of Canary.
Show, please? Gotta get out of here.
I'm trying. Thanks for listening to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Make sure to tune in next time. But until then, think outside the cage.
Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Bye, gold. Bye.
I want to shake things up, shake things up. I want to shake things up, shake things up. Leave the bird alone. I want to stir up some controversy. I want to rattle a few cages. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. A crusader for the little guy. Little guy. Well, we'll see about that.
Whatever, Illuminati.
Come on, man.
Aborted feces.
Keep yapping, man.
Fun fact, I believe it was another fun fact. Fun fact. Another fun fact.
Brings me back to my Screamo days.
That was the Slim Jim.
In the future, humans will be confined in a people's zoo.
People, I'll keep you safe and warm in my people's zoo. I'll keep you safe and warm now in my people's zoo. You, yeah, you in my people's zoo. I'll keep the cameras on.
Look it up.
I'll keep the cameras on now in my people's zoo. You, yeah, you in my people's zoo.
We're made by the aliens.
Everybody loves waffles.
Oh, man.
And melt those babies into candles. He's a Satanist.
I'll make you fat and sassy in my people's zoo. I'll make you fat and sassy in my people's zoo. You, yeah, you. You, yeah, you. You, yeah, you in my people's zoo.
I'll keep you warm and safe in my people's zoo.
Do not come back, you Nazi psychopaths!